Let's get ready to RPG!
RPG! RPG! RPG! RPG! RPG!
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Knights of Last Call. My name is Derek Melenda, and we are here, and we are live. People were very concerned today because they were like, "Oh, Derek, you're you made a video. Like, are you okay?" Blink twice to let us know that you're okay. What's up with the chat? Chat's very weird looking today. Let's try to see if we can fix the chat. Maybe that's a little better. I don't know what's going on with chat. That'll have to do. Anyways, what's up, everyone? Welcome. Yeah, we're just hanging out. Hear any good news today? Oh, okay. Look at my. This is definitely screwed up. What's going on with the chat? No, that's not it. Oh, I see what's happening. 3. No, that's definitely not it. No, that's not it. All right, hold on a second. I don't know what something happened. Weird happened to my chat. Okay, that looks better. All right. There we go. Sorry about that. It just took a little bit of time to figure that out. What is up, everybody? Hey, how's it going? So anyways, I am not, in fact, dead. I have not been stolen by aliens or something like that. I'm still here. But yeah, this week I'm going to be heading to Origins. So that means that I will not be doing our Thursday evening stream, and there will likely be no stream over the weekend because I am going to be down in Columbus at the Origins Game Fair, hanging out with about 15 or 20 of the Knights of Last Call patrons who are going to be coming into town for the con, playing some games, talking some shop, hanging out, having fun, all the good stuff, getting to rub shoulders with my community, which is awesome. Love to do it. And it'll be really exciting and fun. So anyways, since we're probably gonna have we're gonna have a very limited amount of time this week to stream, I figured I'd hop on here late night, and crack a cold one of Diet Mountain Dew, that is, and hang out with y'all. No real particular agenda. Tomorrow maybe we'll do something more formal, but today we're just hanging out, shooting the shit, talking about that. What's the haps? And additionally, we do have 2 tip goals. We have a super chat goal of Daggerheart fucking hype, and then in parentheses it says bribes. In case you didn't know, we're taking bribes for Daggerheart. Show your support. Knights, do more with Daggerheart. And then the tip goal is to do a stream from Origins. If we can get our tip goal in there, I'll head down. I'll bring my my Rode lavalier, my wireless packs, and maybe we could do a little stream from Origins. Maybe we get a patron or 2 on, and we can just hang out, shoot the shit, and have some fun like the old days. So yeah, real quick. Hey, what's going on, Chandler? Good to see you. Nice to see you here. Rob, good to see you as well. What's up? Good to have you here. Wojo, always a pleasure. Kyle, always a pleasure. Open World Addict is hyped and on here on time. Very excited for that. Thank you, Open World. Thank you for your 2-month subscriber there over on Twitch. Remember, if you want to be cool like Open World Addict and get your cool little Twitch star, you can head over to twitch.tv. We also stream over there, but you can give us a follow. And then if you do have Amazon Prime, you can give us a sub over there for free once a month. So cool way to support the channel, and it doesn't cost you a dime. Keithor, good to see you as well, my friend. Exactly. People were like on there. It was so funny how people, even on Reddit, were like, what is going on? They're like, what's more miraculous, that Darington Press hired Chris Perkins and Jeremy Crawford, or that Derek did a 6-minute video? The legend himself, Tim, the prodigal sorcerer, is in house. What's up, Tim? Pulf, good to see you. Pumpkin is in the house as well. Ooh, Dr. Waits is making Daggerheart pre-gens for a test run tomorrow. Now, Dr. Waits, why are you making pre-gens? Aren't there pre-gens available? Or are you just having fun? Boothby, good to see. Boothby will be one of the Boothby, Dr. Waits will both be Knights of the Last Call patrons that we'll be hanging out with at Origins here in a couple of days. Looking really forward to that. No big thing. Just Darington Press snagging some of the best minds in the business. So, and our friend Quest Friend says, how about that Darington Press news? Holy moly. Yeah. So, obviously I did a video about it. I talked about it, but the long and the short of it is this. For me, it is less about any sort of, well, okay, let's also break this down a couple things. Number one, they were hired in as head of creative development and head of game development. And that means that they are going to be in a kind of executive producer role. I'm not necessarily saying that they won't have an influence on the game development. I'm sure they will. But they're still going to be the primary writers and the primary developers who are going to be doing the game itself, which is good. Right. Someone on Reddit was immediately, they looked at the picture. Spencer Stark wasn't in the picture and they were like, oh no, has Spencer been forced out of the thing? And Spencer, who is really, really good about responding on Reddit, was like in the post, like in the comment chain, was like, no, I was just around the corner getting like a burrito or something like that. So, people are very quick to jump to these conclusions. Now, I don't have the same knee-jerk reaction that other people have. Well, not everybody, but I only view this as a good thing because, number one, I really respect these two gentlemen. They've been around a lot longer than 5th edition. And for those of you who like only know them through this quasi weird hate 5e type lens, which is fine. You're entitled to that. All I can say is that these people here they're veterans, but their hiring for me means less about what they might do to the game or what they might not do to the game. What it signifies to me is that Darington Press is serious about this about this role-playing game thing. And that may not just be Daggerheart. There might be other games, that they are looking to do. And I think that's really exciting because it means that they're trying. And now again, as I said, they're not going to take over D&D, but it could mean that they become, they're intending to be a serious contender and be, in the top echelons, right, of the game. And I think that's really, really, really cool. Now I do have to make a correction here. Boyko, you said, yes, but they have only written for D&D. Well, I disagree, simply because, they also did work on Warhammer Fantasy roleplay. And yes, they did have some certain elements from D20, and things like Mutants and Masterminds and Blue Rose and stuff like that. But I don't know, if somebody's been, I don't know how to tell you this, but 5th edition D&D is very different from 4th edition D&D, which is very different from 3rd edition D&D. So, they have been all over the map in terms of what they're writing for, I mean, I don't know how to explain this, but Spencer Stark never wrote Daggerheart until he wrote Daggerheart, so I think it's kind of strange to just assume that bringing in extremely well accredited people to add a level of professionalism to your design studio is anything other than amazing. Right. So, yeah, I mean, this is a person with real experience who is going to be leading, from the top. This is a leadership position, right? This is a leadership position.
Wojo tipped $10 bribes for you to play some DH at Origins.
Wojo, it remains to be seen whether or not I will be playing any Daggerheart at Origins, but I will take the tip, and I will take the towards the stream from Origins type thing there. I know that there are a bunch of there's at least 1 or 2 groups of the patrons who are going to be running Daggerheart. I'm not sure what the times are. I have a very strange aversion to locking myself down at conventions. Most people, when they go to a game convention, they want to book their calendar from 8 a.m. to like 10 p.m. And I absolutely am the opposite. I like to leave my calendar as wide open as I can. For me, it's very much a vacation, spur of the moment type things. I tend to focus on not complicated games. I tend to focus on very like grab baggy games. So like pick up and play type games like Fiasco, or games like Quiet Year, or games like Fall of Magic, or super hyper like one page games like Honey Heist, Lasers and Feelings and stuff like that. Rather than any sort of formalized structured game that most people would consider. I'm a very con focused person when I'm at a convention. It is not my normal go-to to play one-shots from systems that are not, in my opinion, designed to be played as one-shots. I absolutely abhor Werewolf. I think it's the worst game ever. But Werewolf would certainly qualify. But I do hate Werewolf. Yeah. So anyways, so my con experience is all about kind of like staying, loose and free. And I really love the con hall. And I love the other element of this is I love board games. And since my board gaming group doesn't really kind of get together anymore, and I don't really go to board game meetups around the area like I used to, conventions are usually a great time for me to get in, 3 to 5 board games over the course of the 4 or 5 days that I'm down there. And I'm going to be bringing a couple, but I always like to be introduced to a couple new ones. And one of the things that's been missing from my life recently has been that I would say since COVID, right? Like since 2020, I just don't play video games or board games like I used to, and I do miss that. And I've missed out on some of the hotness. Like I haven't played Ark Nova, and apparently it's a really great game. Anyways, so actually I've played Alice is Missing, but after I played it, I picked up a copy of it, and I don't think I ever opened it. So I've only played it once, but it was really good. I had no idea that Spencer Stark did it until people were saying that after. I was like, oh, Spencer Stark wrote this game, and I didn't really know him. And then they were like, oh, he did Alice is Missing. And I was like, oh, that's cool. So anyways, for me, the reason why Jeremy Crawford and Chris Perkins being brought on board is exciting is has nothing to do with their game elements. I think people are reading way too much into that. For me, it shows that Darington Press is willing to spend money to hire real professionals to come in here and lead their game. That's not shade at anybody who's writing for Darington Press. It's not shade at the Candela Obscura people. It's not shade at the Daggerheart people. I think they both did really good jobs. Candela Obscura could have used a little bit more work, but I think what it shows is that they want to be taken seriously, and they have the chops to do it. And believe it or not, one of the problems that a lot of RPG companies have is that they are businesses run by people who are not business savvy and are gamers. And that's cool. And that's great. And that's how you get those really awesome indie itch.ios that I love. But that's also how you end up with a game like Strike, which is a great game, but it was created by a guy in his downtime, and he got busy with life, and it was never really fully vetted out, and it kind of just has withered on the vine for 10 plus years. So there's got to be a balance between trying to be a successful business that makes games rather than just making, the absolute very best games that they can. The other aspect of this is Darington Press is not publicly traded. Darington Press knows that they are not going to be number one. They're not going to supplant Wizards of the Coast. So when you're Chris Perkins or you're Jeremy Crawford and you're at Wizards of the Coast, you've got executives, you've got shareholders, you've got stockholders meetings, and they are coming down and they're basically saying like, we're on top and we got to stay on top, keep, giving the people what they want. Don't do anything. Don't rock the boat, because we don't want to lose our number one position, right? What do they say? It's lonely at the top. Here, I get the distinct impression that, Critical Role is just sprinkling their Critical Role money. Like I'm imagining, I don't know Matt Mercer, but I'm imagining if I was Matt Mercer, okay? And for whatever reason, 10, whatever it was, 15 years ago, I started this, I started this actual play, and it became huge, and then we're selling out stadiums, and we've got, 75,000 people watching our games, and we're making millions and millions and millions of dollars. Okay? This is Derek. If this is and put Derek in for Matt Mercer. Derek is going to be like, I'm going to make a game company and I'm going to make fucking rad ass games. And I kind of don't care if they sell because I've got a fucking lot of money and I don't need to make money off of this. In fact, if it breaks even, sick. I just want to make cool games and get them out there. And I'm going to use the financial power that this show has afforded me to make that happen. And I'm going to hire the best. And I'm going to make unbelievably, I mean, one of the things that you've seen from everybody, Rob Donahue did a huge thing on Blue Sky talking about Daggerheart. And a lot of people have talked about Daggerheart, about the quality of the cards, the quality of the printing, the quality of everything. This is not an amateur product. I want to make something good. I want to make something, sexy. So I don't care if it costs me money. I don't care if I don't care if the profit margin is, a couple percentage points. I don't really care if I lose money, because for me, it's more about my legacy being, part of this game development. So I think in some ways, Darington Press might be like that. Now, that being said, this show seems to be really, really, really selling well, or the game seems to be really, really selling really well. So there's that. Let me see here. Old World had another preview. I might have to check that out. Super Writer Andy, what's up? Thoughts of the big news on Daggerheart today? Well, Super Writer Andy, I did a video about it, but I mean, I'm really excited. What's up, Woodland Fellowship going on? Callus, hello, hello, hello. Todd the hater man. Twilly here, the only person who hates more than Derek. That's why I like having Todd in the chat, because Todd is more cynical and hating than me. What's up, Laughing? We missed you yesterday, buddy. Chandler says, in relation to the Daggerheart zine that you talked about, I think it would be cool to have some campaign frames in it and then have adversaries and environments made for the different settings. True. The thing is, campaign frames outside of, I would say the number one most difficult thing to develop for Daggerheart is going to be domains, a new domain. The second most difficult thing to develop, and by that I mean effort, but I also mean balance and getting it right. The second most difficult thing to develop is going to be a campaign frame. They're going to be long and involve a lot of things. Now, it's not necessarily as important from a getting everything balanced perspective. I just think we should learn to walk, before we run. And if we do start publishing or producing some cool Daggerheart content, I think we would start with environments and adversaries and subclasses and maybe classes and ancestries and communities, rather than the two, what I consider to be the two big things, which is a new domain and a new campaign frame. Sick. Well, open world app, I appreciate it. I am still very disappointed about the no great VTT options. That has been very disappointing for sure. Casey, there is no official RFC booth at Origins. No, I'm just going. But they do have a booth where they're going to be selling Roll for Combat stuff, but it's not like Glicker's not going to be there, Cypher's not going to be there, What's up, Keith? Yes, I did hear about Todd Kenrick as well. Also, the VP of the Dungeons & Dragons line also tendered her resignation today as well. So, I'm sure the news sites will be going crazy with all that news as well. I don't know Todd that well as a game developer. I think Todd is mostly a 5e mainstay, I think. So I don't really know him, Well, thank you, Laws. Oh, it's your channel. You're hopped over. Sweet. Awesome. Let's see here. Yes, Casey, I agree. It's a signal of good intent, good sign for anyone thinking about investing time into their systems. Yeah, I mean, at the very least, they're serious about it. They're hiring people. They're bringing, they wouldn't be bringing in what I imagine to be fairly, expensive developers to lead their game lines if they weren't serious about at least, giving it a good faith support for that, I also believe that, I mean, at this point, they have to use Daggerheart for campaign 4, right? Right? Like there's just no way that they don't now. I mean, how are you going to hire the guys and then do it in I mean, that would be crazy, right? Like that would be crazy, right? All right, let's get the poll up. Bloop. All right, campaign 4. D&D, Daggerheart, something else. What would it mean if they didn't use it for campaign 4? I still think it would be bad. I mean, if you create a game and your company creates a game and it's a fantasy game, now, okay, that is a new take that I don't think I've heard anybody say. Maybe somebody else said it, but Derek, you're the first person I saw say it. Derek said, I don't think there will be a campaign 4 now, just Endless Daggerheart. Now that is interesting because I think it is possible that you will stop seeing you will stop seeing the multi-year mega campaigns that go on for, God knows, 100+ episodes and hundreds of hours. Daggerheart doesn't really support it. And I also think they understand that it is asking a lot of your audience that is no longer locked inside their homes during quarantine to sit there and watch 300+ hour of content. So, and I one of the things that one of the things that Critical Role and I have in common is that my first episode of an actual play, okay, I get pretty good numbers. And then they drop by about 40% in the second episode, and then they drop by 40% into the third episode, and then it kind of slowly dwindles to nothing. And by the time I get to my final episode, and I'm only doing, 10 or 15 or 20 episodes, we have a fraction of the people that we started with. And unfortunately, it is very difficult. It does happen, but it is very difficult for somebody to come in at episode 78 and be like, I want to be part of the community. I want to be part of the, the live play, but I have no idea what's going on. That's okay. Go watch the 78 prior episodes. It's only 210 hours. And it's like, you know what I'll do instead? No, I won't. I don't wait for the next one. Right. Whereas, and this was a theory that we did, but it's hard to test it because number one, we have only had a couple of APs. And number two, we're obviously very small and unpopular. But my theory was, wouldn't it be better instead of doing one 100 session game to do 5 20 session games, 20 session campaigns? Maybe they even all take place. Maybe they all take place in the same world so that and maybe they kind of loosely interconnect, or maybe campaign 2 builds off of what happened in campaign 1, but you don't need to have watched campaign 1 to really understand what's going on with campaign 2. It's a fresh start. We do the same thing with our Northern Reaches Pathfinder 2 mega game, where every year is a new season and everybody starts at level 1 and, we go from that. Now somebody's saying that this is, again, I don't know shit about anything about the internet and I don't know anything about role-playing games, popular stuff. The Dimension 20 model. I have, quite frankly, I can't watch actual plays, but I can kind of dig Matt Mercer. I am sure he's a fine person. I cannot stand the Dimension 20 people. They are very annoying to me. And Brennan Lee Mulligan, his GMing style is very off-putting to me. And they strike me as, college humor comedian people playing D&D. And it's nothing against them. I'm sure they're great. It's totally a preference. There's nothing wrong with what they do. I'm just saying, like, for example, I hate Werner's ginger ale. Not that there's anything wrong with Werner's ginger ale. I just hate Werner's ginger ale. I like Canada Dry, but I don't like Werner's. Anyways, point is, I definitely have never even seen an episode of Dungeons and Daddies. I've heard a lot of people say Glass Cannon is their favorite actual play, and I've kind of lightly dabbled in it, but again, they're just not my things. But overall, it seemed like it was a little bit more my speed. But I find actual plays to be incredibly slow and very boring, Keith. Force, Jesus, one more thing we agree on. Werner's is gross. All right, Ike. There we go. That's the way to go. Yeah, I don't know why. I just don't like Werner's. Like, and I can taste the difference, by the way. I can taste the difference. Because, like, one of my go-tos, right, is, well, my favorite is Seagram's. Because one of my favorite mixed drinks is a 7 and 7, right? Seagram's 7 ginger ale, Seagram's 7 whiskey. Canadian blend. Good stuff. Love it. And I'll take a Jameson, and ginger if but if the ginger ale is Werner's, blah, it's gross. Anyways, totally separate. Well, you know what? It's fine. 7 and 7 is just my three go-to. Well, okay. Like, I'm not going to choose like a more complicated cocktail, but like, I love 7 and 7s. I love vodka cranberries. And
Edward tipped $20.
Hey, Edward,
this
thank
is
you.
A bribe. The AP must happen. We had a very fun session 0 for DH with King Hodop last week. Looking forward to session 1 on Saturday.
Edward, well, thank you very much for the bribe. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, Hodop has been all in on trying to, master this system and asking a lot of great questions. And, it's fantastic. And I'm really excited for you. I'm excited that he's running the game. And I think it's cool that, some of the DC 20 folks are kind of dipping their toe into the world of PBTA style narrative fiction first gaming. I don't think it'll take the place of, your crunchy tactical grid games like a DC 20 or a Pathfinder 2nd edition, but it can be a lot of fun. Yes, Tim, Tim said, where my painkiller at? And Tim said, oh, you said not that complicated. The painkiller might be my favorite drink. And Tim and I, for my 30th birthday, well, for a bunch of our 30th birthday, we went to the Virgin Islands, and that was the first place I'd ever had a painkiller. And a painkiller is a drink officially made with like 3 ounces of pineapple juice, 3 ounces of orange juice, and then you add in some cream of coconut, not coconut milk, right? The thick stuff, cream of coconut, and then you add in rum. Now, it's supposed to be officially Cruzan rum, which is created on St. Croix, but you can use any kind of rum. But officially, it is supposed to be Cruzan rum. And then you sprinkle it with nutmeg, freshly grated if possible. And what I really liked, there was this one place that had what they called a Nilla Killa. Instead of a painkiller, it was a Nilla Killa, and it used vanilla Cruzan rum with the aforementioned pineapple juice, orange juice, cream of coconut, and nutmeg. And that was a very dangerous drink, my friends. I love tropical drinks, but my third favorite drink that's relatively simple is the mojito. Although you do have to muddle, so maybe the mojito doesn't count. But I love vodka cranberries, I love mojitos, and I love 7 and 7s. But that's a small list of my favorite mixed drinks. And then when it comes to beers, I basically like IPAs, and I've become more. I really like the hazy IPAs now. The fruitier, the hazier, the better. I've really loved some of these really fruity IPAs. They're so good. Mojito is my go-to drink when I'm in the Caribbean, Chandler. I don't usually get a mojito in Vegas. Vegas is very much more a 7 and 7 type place. When I'm on the cruise ship, if I'm on an island, it's a mojito for sure. All right. Sorry, there's a lot of stuff going on here today. The Wisconsin Old Fashioned. I don't know the Wisconsin Old Fashioned. Ooh, Crown Vanilla and Pepsi. That'd be pretty good. Crown. I'm not a huge fan of just rum and Coke, but nah. Tequila and I have a very dangerous relationship. In fact, origin story. 2 years ago at Origins, we went across the street to this Mexican restaurant, and we got like 4 pitchers of margaritas because Alyssa said that this is like her favorite margarita place. And somehow, I don't exactly know what happened, but I ended up having like an entire pitcher by myself. And like we were going to go out afterwards and we were going to like play games. And instead, we went back to my hotel room and I said, because we were going there to get the Fiasco game. And I said, you guys take it. I'm a grown man. I'm just going to go to bed. I don't want to be up anymore. And I didn't get to play in the really fun Fiasco game with all the patrons because I just passed the fuck out really, really, really early. So yeah, tequila, I just get really, I get really drunk. Anyways, but they're okay. I much prefer like a fake margarita, something frozen with, with fruity drink things, not like a real margarita with like, oh, I made this with the añejo and, it's, it's like something like really, nice and, with a freshly squeezed lime juice. No, like I'm talking about something that comes out of a fucking Slurpee, a Slurpee machine. Now that being said, I don't really drink that much anymore because, last year I started having my panic attacks and I kind of really have, really stopped drinking much. All right. Well, overwhelmingly people think Daggerheart will be the campaign force. So that's good. Or at least they want it to be. I don't know if that's aspirational or what you actually think it's going to be. There was this one really cool actual play with a Wheel of Pain that I watched once, which was pretty cool. Yeah. You and nobody else agrees. Yeah, Sanderson, I think, and I saw somebody in chat, and I apologize, it's coming by pretty quick here, but, somebody was like, the critters will not like that. What I was talking about, apparently the Dimension 20 model of doing shorter APs bound up and together, which is unfortunate, but I think you just need to give people more on-ramps, into your game. But, like, let me give you, this is how sick I am, okay? This is how sick I am. Okay, this is how sick I am. Wait 1 second. I'm sick. Okay. I don't know what is going to happen. All right. But no, I went to go get the thing. This is the way my brain works. People always say, Derek, you're really bad at, well, like everything, but you're bad at business and you're bad at figuring things. I'm just bad. I'm just not you ever heard that expression, your reach exceeds your grasp, right? That's me. Okay. So this is literally how my brain works. Okay. This is how my brain works. People have been really clambering. I don't know how, or I don't know how we would do. I don't know how we would do any actual play. Let me, well, this is so complicated. It's not complicated. I'm just trying to figure out the right way to tell this story. I want to play Daggerheart because it looks cool and I'm excited about the game. Full stop. Additionally, I want to play Daggerheart because it will allow me to have a better critique and a better understanding of the system drawn from real experience, which will allow me to share my thoughts with you all and hopefully give you additional insights that I may not have if I don't have, 40, 50, 60, 100 hours of playing the game under my belt. So that's 2 things. The third thing is I am a big believer and I'm a big proponent of these PBTA style games. And I have always really enjoyed them. And I think that they opened my eyes to a style of play that was very, very, very transcendent for me. And I see in Daggerheart an opportunity to bring this awakening to the masses. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it's for everyone and it will solve, it's not like some universal panacea. But I do know that, as they say from Dune, right? A beginning is a very delicate time. And it is very easy to play and get these type of games wrong. Now, as I said before, it is okay. Daggerheart is okay because I believe in the fail case where you're doing nothing correct, you will still get basically D&D, right? And we love D&D, right? We've been playing D&D for 50 years. And so in a worst case scenario, if you're not really, digging into the principles and the agendas that the game is espousing, if you're not using your GM moves in a very directorial way, then you're going to end up with D&D, and that's okay. So, but I think there's an opportunity here to really educate people. And again, the goal of this channel is to educate and to entertain. So this is why I can't do 6-minute videos normally. Actual plays have always been a way that I, as a GM, feel like I have an opportunity to do both. Okay? Which is to educate while entertaining. Ideally, hopefully, our actual plays are somewhat entertaining. And our entertainment is not going to, it depends on what you view as entertainment. Obviously, me and my fellow players are pretty much the polar opposite of whatever it is that Critical Role is, right? We're neither attractive, we're neither beautiful, we're neither good voice actors, we're neither actors at all, So all of those things mean that, our entertainment, comes in before, our entertainment from an actual play, that when we do one it comes more from like, it's a bunch of, regular Joes playing a game. What's up, Ben? Good to see you drop in here. Just completed your Call of Cthulhu. By the way, I made an observation today with Ben. Ben has been running a Call of Cthulhu campaign for 7 years. And I made the comment and I said, you have been running this campaign longer than any of my relationships in my entire life have ever lasted. Which is saying something about Ben's campaign, but also my own personal relationship life. So, and I've heard people say that one of the reasons they enjoy our actual plays is because we look like real people. And I usually have people on that don't necessarily know the game as well, or, and people can empathize with them. And I'm trying to teach them. And by teaching them, right, I teach you. Okay, so that goes to get what I got. So the other day, this was on sale. It was still pretty expensive, but this is like how my brain works. So this is a Stream Deck XL. All right. I have a normal Stream Deck, but it has 15 buttons. This is a Stream Deck XL, and it was on sale at Micro Center. So I picked it up, and this is literally the reason I thought about, I was going to pick this up. This is what I was envisioning. This is how sick I am. I was like, if I'm running a Daggerheart game, whether it's an actual play, or I don't even, again, I have no, ignore for a moment that we could even do it, because right now we can't even do it. My streaming computer, right, it got destroyed in the garage fire. We don't have a studio. The VTT options for Daggerheart are pretty shitty. Okay, but the reason I wanted this is my thought process, is number one, in case you've never watched one of our actual plays, I live produce it. Okay. So what that means is if you go and look at our actual play, or whatever, like our root actual play, or even any of our live streams from when we did it live in the studio, you will see me with my left hand cutting to different cameras. We had 5 different cameras, 5 different shots. And so I use my Stream Deck to change, oh, Bob's talking, let me do a close up to Bob. Oh, it's back to more of a group conversation, let me go to the wide. Okay, Derek's talking, back to the Derek, right? So I did all that while also, running Root, powered by the Apocalypse. But while I think that I just saw Steve's garage fire. Jesus, dude, you have some bad luck. Well, this has all happened in the last 1 year, Steve. Actually, we're coming up on the 1 year anniversary of the garage fire. Producing and GMing at the same time sounds exhausting. Listen, it's like I'm like a conductor. But yes, so I'm producing the shots while also running the PBTA game. if you go and watch the root actual play. But one of the things I've noticed is I'm very good at teaching the game to players, essentially, because, usually my players, usually Bob or Nick or something like that, don't really know the game. And so I'm kind of teaching. It's like a play and teach, right? What do they call those in board games? Is it a play and teach? What's the term I'm thinking of? God, why can't I think of that term? Hold on a sec. What's the term? I don't know. It's like something like that. It's like stitch and bitch. But it's like a play along. It's like where you play the game while teaching it. There's a term that people use, for board gaming, and I can't remember what it is. Anyways, so it's like you're playing the game and learning it at the same time. It's the way that a lot of the more modern games their tutorials are set up. It's like a walkthrough, but I don't remember the term, but yeah, it's like a beginner's box type thing. Anyways, so I was like, okay, but one thing I think that this game in particular, Daggerheart, really needs is an understanding of GMing. And that's harder to do because I'm focused on the players. So here was my idea. My idea was I was going to use this, and I was going to code in to the different buttons, okay, what GM move I was making at the time I was making it. And so it would be like in the bottom of the live stream, like, right, like in the GM section. So while you're watching it and we're playing, right, I would hit the button and you would see, like, ask them tell them the consequences and ask, because as I'm making that move, I would do that. And then when, maybe I'm spotlighting an adversary, I'd spotlight an adversary. I would, foreshadow future badness. I would, show them what's happening off screen. And that way, people watching at home, GMs mostly, could actually see, the move that I'm making, And I think that, like, the advantage that what I bring to the Jake, we'll get to that in a second. The advantage that I bring to the game, and this is where I take, again, we're here to Critical Role, in my personal opinion. I said this in the last stream. I said, several streams ago, I said, I criticized them for, I think, doing a bad job of teaching the game because, they weren't getting all the rules right and whatever. But then, I took that back because I was like, well, the good news is they're learning how to do it. Like, the other good news is, at the worst, it's just cool. It's just D&D. You can't really fuck it up too much. But I also realized, I was like, Critical Role as a organization, as a channel, their promise with their core customer base is, we're here to entertain you. We're here to tell you a story. We're here to, the game isn't what you're here for. The game is just a method. It's just a sort of a thing that we are using to storytell. It's not about the game. It's about the excitement of the story that is happening live before your eyes. So they're focused just on entertainment, whereas I'm focused on this mix of entertainment and education. And I would even say, arguably, more on the educational part because, we're not as entertaining. So I think what my unique value add is to the community is to instruct. And to that end, it's really important to me that you, the viewer, understand what is going on at the game, in the game state, at the time that we are making it. And if you look at things like our Pathfinder 2 AP, our actual Quest for the Frozen Flame, or our Rise of the Rune Lords live streams, it's very important to me that, like, we have counters up, that you can see what the players' hit points are, that we can't show every bit of data about the PCs. There's a lot of bits of data in like a game like Pathfinder 2. But at the very least, I want you to be able to see like, okay, what's their hit point total? Because that makes the context of the actions that they are taking a little bit more, understandable. And this is one of the reasons why having a good, VTT integration is really important to me, because when we were doing something like playing Pathfinder 2 on Foundry with a really good VTT implementation, and we were playing it remotely, I was able to scrape that data from Foundry and display it in OBS, my streaming platform, so that people could see it and you could get that data and you could get that information. Now, obviously, when we played Root, where we played live in studio, we didn't have that capability. And that was something while I really love playing in person and the information is way much more interesting, we didn't have that idea. Now, this is where Daggerheart technically affords me another cool option. And Moonfei, thank you so much for the $20. What a cool idea. I would love to see an AP like that. So would I, Moonfei, because honestly, that's what I'm here to do. This is I've said this before. I said on this channel many times, I've said, the purpose of role-playing games is to create cool stories that you can tell other people and that they'll think they're cool. The chances are good that the stories that you create are going to be lame as shit, and no Hollywood actor would ever touch them, or no Hollywood, film studio ever touch them. But that's okay, because it doesn't matter what everybody else does. What matters is, are you creating a cool game for you and your friends? You had to be there, and it's your story. And it's like the description I always use is, it doesn't matter that your kids, art on the refrigerator is terrible, right? To you, it's beautiful because they were drawing daddy or they were drawing mommy, and it's a horrible picture, but you love it because it was from your kid, from as a gift to you. It's the same thing with the stories that we create in our games. Open World Addict, take care, good night. So to that end, I want to empower you to create your own games. I don't want you to watch me play a game. I mean, that's cool and all. I hope you find it entertaining. But honestly, I'd rather you didn't. I'd rather you watch my show, learn how to play, and then go start a fucking game. Hell, join the Knights of Last Call, start a Daggerheart game, play with people. That's what I want, And I would rather have that happen than you watch me play, right? I mean, I'm honored, I'm humbled, and if you really are having fun and you're learning, great. But ultimately, I want you to take that information and go make your own game, your own campaign. So my idea was that I was like, I might need to start messing around with a larger stream deck so that I can still control the producing, but also be able to control information that might be helpful to people who are watching at home. So that's why I bought this stream deck. I have no way to technically do a live stream right now because, like I said, for all those aforementioned reasons, but I'm dreaming and I'm scheming. I'm trying to figure it out. And the bribes keep coming in. So that is very, very helpful and helps fund these kind of activities as well. So I think it's really interesting. I think it's really cool. And I would love to be able to support it in my own way through that sort of structured information for the people at home. And somebody says like pop-up video. Yes. Pop-up video is a great example. A pop-up video is a really good example of that for those of you who remember VH1 in the 90s. And I think that'd be a lot of fun. Pop into pop-up video. Pop up. Pop into pop-up video. What'd you miss? I don't know. Me ranting about something. But I missed some stuff here. Jim Sott says sick. Oh, no, sick as in good. Okay. Thadia says, I am sick. Omniscient Toad says that would be awesome. Jake says, hell yeah. Francois says, oh my God, you're a maniac and I love it. Then into your Shadow Dark Dungeon. Well, that's like a different passion of mine. To be very clear, I love narrative, fiction first story games where we are rocking and rolling and the rules, and we're going quick, we're playing fast, we're just playing loose, like let's make it happy, we're having fun. I also like dungeons and mega dungeons. And those aren't necessarily a Venn diagram of overlap. Precisely. So before Tim gets too excited, because, if I had an actual play, I would try to get Tim involved. There is another advantage from the player side of Daggerheart, which is that Daggerheart doesn't have as much information to track as, say, Pathfinder 2, right? You only have 6 or 7 hit points. You only have 6 stress points. You only have up to 6 hope. So my idea there is I can give all of my players a stream deck, because I do have a couple stream decks. I have 2 stream decks. And then the players can use their stream deck, let's say we're in person, right, to adjust their totals on their character sheet. So that even though we're playing live or in person, like, right, with dice and papers and pencil, the people at home would see through the, Jesus Christ, the actual stats, or or not maybe the stats, but they would see the number of hit points, and they would see the amount of stress that somebody has and the amount of hope that somebody has, which I think would be really, really cool. Because again, I really want people to be able to experience that and see that. We did have a super chat. Jacob Online. Hey, Jake says, bribes are fun. Thanks, Jake. That's so much. Hey, the alternate GM is here. Thank you, alternate GM. Thank you for the donation. Dagger Hype. Love it. Love it. Love it. Thank you so much. Alternate GM. That's great. Dagger Hype. I love it. It's like, we're stealing the Bob's Dragonbane hype. I didn't say this actually, Jace brings up a good point. Which is that, the other thing about this is I said during, I think my first read through of the release of Daggerheart, I said, I could see this being a game. I said, I'm really paying attention to this game because I could see it being a game that Smith would love to play and that Bob would love to play. And I could see Smith making a very complex character with a very intricate domain card overlapping, maybe multi-classing, numerous, very complicated class features and subclass features and domains that, overlap and have all sorts of crazy synergy. And, the more cards that make you track things on them with counters, the ones that say, like, after a long rest, put a number of counters on it equal to your spellcast stat, and then you can spend this, you can spend them one at a time. That's Smith's bread and butter right there. Meanwhile, Bob's got a character that's just like, you have this card that gives you bonus to damage, and it's like, it's just one of those things where it's just like so cool. And GM Scott,
$125. This is a bribe. Here's for 16 of those 32 new buttons at MSRP.
GM Scott, well, thank you so much. Actually, it's probably more like 28 of the buttons because I did get it on sale. Thank you very much. GM Scott, well, you know what, buddy? If I do a stream, I'm going to be at Origins. That means you may have to be on it, especially as you are now our current undefeated hype boss. GM Scott, thank you so very much. I look forward to hanging out with you all weekend, my friend. It's always a pleasure to get to see you. And, I had always hoped, GM Scott, that we would have gotten you into the studio for a game. Alas, the studio died an untimely and unseasonable death. GM Scott, you are a true champion and friend of this channel, and you have my eternal thanks. Well, GM Scott has been on our shows before at conventions via our convention live streams or our convention podcasts. Well, they weren't live, GM Scott. Yes. Actually, GM Scott had the final game of my Wiz War 8th edition box set before it got completely destroyed in the fire. RIP. It is really expensive to replace, by the way, and I eventually will replace it. Because it is so much better than the newest edition. And he had one of the coolest and best wins I have ever seen in Wiz War in the, 15 years that I have been playing, maybe even longer, been playing Wiz War. So, GM Scott, that was a very notable and awesome particular set of games that we did play in the studio, but it was not live. So what I meant was GM Scott gets you on camera playing RPGs. So thank you, GM Scott. You know, I don't know how to say thank you enough, but I'll say thank you again anyways. Thank you so much for that, buddy. And again, you know, you, me, Bob, definitely got to grab a drink or five over the course of the con, and definitely would be on me, my friend. Thank you so much. Well, that's a nice little tip there. So we're definitely gonna be doing some stream from Origins, and it looks like, you know, if we rolled that thing over, where the fucking hype is continuing to go on. I will say, like, I don't really need to be convinced to play Daggerheart. What it really is, you know, where there's a will, there's a way, and I just need to figure out a way that this makes sense and that we can do this in a way that's gonna work. You know, that's the key. So that was a bribe too. Okay, got it. Okay. Is a bribe. It rolled over to the bribe. Yes, I agree. Okay, I thought so. You know, maybe we can get thrown out of Origins. I don't think they do that in Origins, like we did in Vegas that one time. That was awesome. All right. Don't go overboard. GM is indeed a scholar and a gentleman. Well, Omniscient Toad, you're at least half right. His character is definitely a scholar and a lore master. That's a Torchbearer joke, if you haven't noticed. Darth, I did see your question. I want to make sure I don't miss anybody here. Have I drafted any Final Fantasy yet? No, I have not. I don't like Arena. That's part of the problem. I have taken a look at Reign, Thaddeus, but I have not really taken a look at it. And then I was like, I probably shouldn't take a look at it. I should probably first look at. So yeah, maybe we'll first look at it or something. I think Die RPG is kind of tentatively queued up for our next first look. So there we go. That's what it is. See, real gamers find a way. Oh, interesting. I don't follow Brennan Lee Mulligan, so you know, I don't necessarily know what he would be saying there. If there's one lesson to get from your channel, is that loving different things that you can only get from different games is a good and normal thing. Yes, and I understand there is an obsession. I'm guilty of it in some ways too, which is to say, I love this game's X, and I love this game's Y, and I love this game's Z. Let me jam it all together and make a game system. And many game systems are that, and they are done using a very holistic approach. But generally speaking, I find that when people just start jamming new systems into their existing system, you know, you kind of lose the forest for the trees. And I think that it's important to understand that not every game can do everything. Daggerheart is absolutely that, OE. Absolutely. The difference is that Daggerheart was created from the ground up with these instrumental pieces, right? So if it's a Frankenstein of RPGs, which is, by the way, Broken Empires from Trevor, from Me, Myself, and Die, is the same thing, admittedly, from his own mouth. I'm not saying that there's not unique or novel design. I'm sure there's new ideas, or at least new takes on ideas. But it's different to start, okay? Like, let's use a Lego analogy, okay? When I was a kid, all right, my friend Mike, he liked the Pirates sets, okay, of Legos. And I liked the space Legos and the Magnetron Legos, okay? And so when we'd get together, right, we would mix the pieces together and we would build cool pirate spaceships from the ground up. And they were really awesome. But it wouldn't have been as cool if you had a fully constructed, you know, spaceship. And then I just started sticking various, you know, pirate elements onto it. I don't think that would have been as fun. It would have been as cool. So, you know, if you take these different components and you break them down into their fundamental elemental units, and then very cautiously, very deliberately, from a very bottom-up approach, sort of build it up into not a pirate ship with a space thing stuck onto it, but a whole new thing. As somebody said in a whole ass new thing, from our Patreon. That is, I think, that is design. That is taking inspiration. That is building. That is coagulating these things into different things. So that's, I think, the difference, between just taking a system that you like from another game and just jamming it into another system. I think a lot of times that has good intentions, but ends poorly, I just don't like playing Magic. I mean, I don't like video games. I don't like video games. I don't like VTTs. I don't like Arena, and I don't like Moto. So I like, I like the real stuff. What is your take on table talk in Daggerheart? I like it in your Torchbearer videos, but that game embraces that. I do too at my tables, but I think it breaks immersion. I like table talk, Darth. I always have, and yeah, that's the end of the story. I like table talk. I like having discussions about what we're discussing. I enjoy it when my players take a moment and take a beat and sort of talk to the other players about, like, wow, gee, this is a really tough moment for, my character, for Kylak. Yeah, I don't know how they're going to respond to that. For me, that's more fun than whatever's actually happening in the game. Like, I don't play the game for the fiction in a way, like in a weird way. I play the game for the experience of creating the fiction at the table with my friends. Does that make sense? It's kind of like, you remember when you were a kid or maybe a young adult and you would go see movies with your friends, and it didn't really matter what the movie was. You had a great time because it was about the experience of going out with your friends, maybe experiencing your freedom for the, in some ways for your first time, getting the popcorn, seeing a girl from school and, talking about how you're going to shoot your shot and then, pussying out, not doing it or whatever. Like, and then your friends are razzing you all night and then you go to Denny's afterwards, right? It's like, it doesn't matter if the movie is good or not. The movie, and to be clear, if it was no movie, you wouldn't have this experience. So you need the movie. But for me, it's just an excuse to enjoy an experience with my friends, So that's, for me, why I like table talk, because table talk is why I'm there. I'm there to communicate. I'm there to have moments with my friends. So, yeah, GM Scott, this is absolutely when I played MMOs. MMOs, especially the early ones. This is like before Ventrilo and before TeamSpeak. We used to play EverQuest, and we had a chat channel called Euclid. That was the city that we all grew up in. And basically, it was like IRC. It was like, AIM. But it was really just an excuse to have chat, instead of like going into IRC and being like ASL. No, you went and joined a Dreadlands group, and you'd sit there and you'd bullshit with 6 random people who were in your group, and maybe, I don't know, shout across the zone and have all these random crazy conversations. But while you were doing it, the ranger or the monk was pulling in, Dragnar Ravagers and the occasional, arachnid web spinner, and you're burning them down and slowly but surely ticking up the XP. I loved it. I loved everything about it because, yeah, I want to have communication. I want to have moments with my fellow human beings. But, look, there's a reason why. And when, people will like, we're going to have a drink. But what you're really doing is going to have a conversation with your friends, right? The drink is just a, pretext for doing that. Well, to me, that's kind of the same thing with RPGs. Now, the crazy thing for me is that there are people who don't care about the people. They care about the story, the game. And that's just very not me. So, Darth says, you get me. Playing with the players is cool. The characters are secondary in my games. Absolutely. Yeah. Characters are replaceable. Players are not. I could kill characters. I can't kill players. I 100% agree. The experience of creating the fiction, etc., is something so fundamental to RPGs for me. Yep, that's what I'm there for. But it's weird. Like, I want to create the fiction. I don't really care what the fiction is. If that makes, except gross. That is a crime against humanity. Do not put M&Ms in your popcorn bucket. Popcorn should just be popcorn. Snow caps are terrible in any capacity, but I don't like chocolate. But don't do it, Jackal. They're terrible. This is also part of the reason why I have a. Again, I know that for some people it's the only way that they can play, but I really have very little desire to, I've never, even before this YouTube channel was a thing, people who like play like these games with like anonymous strangers online, and they basically have no idea who those people are, and they don't really have like a personal relationship with them. And they're just like, I'm just there to like, I don't know, experience the actual play and level up my character. And I care so little about that. And this is, we have people in our Discord, from our Patreon Discord, who like really disagree with me because I always say things like, I don't care about my player character. When I'm a player, I don't care about my player character. I don't care if they live. I don't care if they die. They are there so that I get to be there, because it would be awkward if I was just standing around the table not playing the game. But I want to be there, because I like my friends and I want to be a part of this thing. Oh, I need to have a player character. Okay, I'll make one. So it's But yeah, but if you don't care about your character, are you really role playing? I think so. But again, what I think role playing means is something that is very different from what other people mean. Some people ascribe to it this like this sort of out of body spiritual significance, where they like gain enjoyment through the existential transition to another person. I don't do that. So, one of my friends never joined the table because they like the immersion, and BG3 does that better than guys laughing in a critical moment. Respect, but never understood. Yeah, I even understand it. It's not for me, in that respect. So Tim says, yeah, my PC is the vessel for me to interact with the world. I try to stay true to them, but if they die hilariously or epically and it makes sense, I'm happy with that and roll the next one. Yeah. That's basically exactly right. That's exactly right. For sure. That's how I basically feel about everything as well. Cool. Force says, and this is why I GM. I care more that the story is interesting than what exactly happens. Oh, very much agree. Very much agree. In fact, that's why my whole thing as a GM is I just want to create the most feral, interesting, outrageous, epic, hilarious, whatever, experience possible. And I want to make the players have something that they will remember. And I don't care how we do it, Now, the cool thing about this is, though, because you might say, oh, so Derek, you like to fudge. No, because this is where the other thing is. I like games. So when you give me a game that lets me do that, now I'm very interested. And that is why I prefer games that create moments and narratives, and stories, rather than games that they don't really have an agenda. They just sort of exist. And, no, I never fudge Force, ever. Oh, I see what you're saying. You only forge when you have a desired result. But if you don't have a desired result, well, I think it's fine to want something to happen. But, there's like that famous psychological experiment, right? Where they like tested like 1,000 kids and they like measured the time between they like put like candy in front of them and they were like measuring their self-control, and they like measured how long it took them before like the act of wanting it and the act of reaching for it. And like they found that like the kids with the greater, like the longer time had much better outcomes 18, 25 years later, like the kids who just grabbed it right away, no impulse control, or like, were on drugs or dealing with, in jail or something. I think one of the most important things that you can do Yeah, that's it. The marshmallow test. Thank you, Sal. That's it. I think that one of the most important things that you need to be able to do as a GM is to realize that you're a human. You're going to have natural moments of, it would be so cool if this happened. And then realize that once an idea is so small that it can fit in just one person's brain, that you're missing the whole point of the exercise. The whole point of the exercise isn't about your cool idea. The whole point of the exercise is, what is our idea, And when I start as a GM, it's okay to have it. I want this to happen, because you're a human. Of course, you're going to see something and you're going to be like, oh, this would be so cool. But you got to rein that shit in. Now, Gamma Doodler, that doesn't surprise me in the slightest that was a very discredited test. It did seem like bullshit. All I'm simply saying is that the idea of it, right, as a GM, is that you are going to have this natural instinct to want to say, oh, it would be really cool if the bard did this and then the whole thing with the princess happened. But you need to restrain yourself, and you need to say, look, I need to have faith in the game system, and I need to have faith in my fellow players, because I am not superior to them. I am here to experience this game, as a whole. And that means I can't be the person in charge. I have a different role, yes, but it's not necessarily a superior one. But this is where a game like Daggerheart is really cool, because I have my principles and I have my agenda. And by the way, well, a lot of people, I think, do a mistake with Daggerheart, which is that they read the rules and they treat them as descriptive. I'm sorry. They read the rules and they read them as prescriptive, and they read the fluffy stuff like principles and agendas and treat that as descriptive, when in fact it is completely the opposite. The rules, those are descriptive, but the principles and the agenda, those are prescriptive, because the rules are things that, you should follow, but these are more suggestions and guidelines. The principles and the agendas of Daggerheart, those are prescriptive. Those should be non-negotiable. That's the hard and fast thing. The thing that we've all sort of been, led to believe that we should just ignore, because it's like, oh, that's some GM advice fluff shit. Actually, in a game like Daggerheart, that is actually the real rules. The real rules are, what is your agenda? What are your principles? What are your pitfalls? If you can internalize those 3 pages or whatever in the rules, you will be doing a much better job, not just of being a Daggerheart GM, in my personal opinion, but any GM in any game than any other game. But what I was going to say, which is really cool about Daggerheart, is that the game gives me a mechanic to do my moment. When I, as a GM, really want something to happen, I think it would be really cool if, I think it would be really cool if, while the ogre was battling with the guardian, that he took his club and smashed the bridge, and the guardian starts to fall. I'm imagining this really epic scene. And you're like, well, don't just do that. But cool. The player just rolled with fear. The player just failed. I have a bunch of fear points in my token, in my pool. The game is giving me explicit rules-based permission to say, here, GM, is a time and a place for you to put your mark on the evolving story narrative. The players are the protagonists. They're the ones who are leading the action, but you're important too here too. You have a cool idea. You want to see the ogre smash the bridge and see what the guardian can get out of it. Cool. Don't just do that. But here's an opportunity. Here's a failure. Here's a roll with fear. Here's a fear point spend. Here's a golden opportunity. use those for your moment while following your principles and agendas, being a fan of the PCs, right? Filling their lives with danger and excitement and adventure, and using those principles to guide your actions. If you do those things and you can really internalize that, number one, you'll have a great time. Your players will have a great time. But number two, you will discover that the game of creating a story is a really fun game to play. And instead of feeling hemmed in or boxed in by all these moves, these GM moves, and I have to spend fear and I can't do anything, you'll instead feel a certain amount of freedom because the game is saying, look, GM, don't worry about it. You know, when you get your chance, you get your chance. If you don't get your chance, you don't get your chance. Just trust in the system and let it be your guide. And in my experience, if a game is a good system, then I can rely on it, and it will lead to the kind of outcomes that I want out of a gameplay experience. If I'm playing a game system and it is not generating the kind of gameplay experiences that I want, if I have to do a lot of heavy lifting, if I feel like I'm fighting the game system, I'm wrestling with it, I need to fucking change my game system probably completely, because a game system should not be in your way. The game system is there to help you, not hold you back. It's there to help you, not hold you back. This is why I think, to a certain extent, Rule 0 is kind of bullshit to a certain extent, because the whole point of the system is to assist you. And so when people are like, well, if you don't like a rule, just throw it out. And I'm like, yeah, but also you're kind of missing the point. The system is designed to do this thing. You're having a hard time with that thing. Maybe this isn't the right system for what you're trying to do. Maybe this is the right system for you. The gum jabbar. Let's see. I'm just seeing what everybody else says here. As a player or a GM, I care more about the world and the experience more than any individual character. I feel that way even when I'm a player, for sure. You know, again, Blind Pumpkin, people play these games for very different reasons. And, you know, some people play them for this experience of becoming someone else. I don't play it for that reason. I play role-playing games the same reason I play board games. I want to have a entertaining and engaging experience with people I enjoy, following and using a game's procedural mechanics to create an outcome which is positive. That's how I would describe it. I feel like a player not invested in their PC enough to care what happens to them isn't invested in the game. As a GM, it feels like, what am I even doing this for? That's a very interesting take. I don't care if a player is not invested in their PC. I only care if they're invested in the game. Now, in your mindset, you know, the only way to be invested in the game is to be invested in their PC. But I don't think that's true. Yes, I enjoy collaborative decision making, which is why I enjoy the table talk. A marshmallow in the hand is worth 2 in the bush. But what if you actually are superior to them? Well, GM Scott, that's a whole separate can of worms. I don't know what to tell you, you know? I mean, yeah, I think trust at the table has to be near the top. You know, no one's perfect. I'm not perfect. You know, I fuck up. But, you know, at the end of the day, you got to trust that the people that you're playing with have your best outcome in heart. You know what I mean? Like you have to trust that they want you to have a good experience. Blind Pumpkin, I couldn't agree more. Blind Pumpkin said, I don't think you need to care about your PC to be invested. You just need to be curious about what happens next. For sure. And Tim agreed. Blind Pumpkin, well said. You should talk about how Daggerheart don't give a fuck. Oh, you mean specifically like the Rob Donahue thing? I haven't watched any of the Get Your Sheet Together videos, Darth. Pumpkin. Hey, what's up, Pumpkin? It's very hard for people coming from a mechanics first game to understand what is prescriptive versus descriptive. At least it was for me at first, as far as fiction first games. Okay. So when I say prescriptive versus descriptive is this idea of saying prescriptive is saying this rule or this mechanic is telling you this is how the game is played and it needs to be played this way. A descriptive mechanic or a descriptive concept is more of like, it's one of those like, this list includes but is not limited to the following items. A descriptive mechanic is more of like giving you ideas and examples rather than telling you precisely what it is that you can and can't do. So a great example of this is if you look in Daggerheart and you look at the GM move list, that is not the only things that you can do. That is not prescriptive. Okay, if that list was prescriptive, then that is like saying the only thing that you can do in this game is the following actions. You can, I don't even know where the list is. You can show how the world reacts, ask a question, build on the answer, make an NPC act in accordance with their motives, lean on the character's goals to drive them into action, signal an imminent off-screen threat, reveal an unwelcome truth or unexpected danger, force the group to split up, have the PC mark a stress as a consequence for their actions, make a move that the characters don't see, show the collateral damage, clear a temporary condition or effect, shift the environment, spotlight an adversary, capture someone or something important, use a PC backstory against them, or take away an opportunity permanently. So, yeah, I understand you understand what it is now, Pumpkin. I'm just saying for people at home. What I'm trying to say is even the way that they write this in Daggerheart is PDF. Is the way that they write this in Daggerheart is they say, when you make a GM move, you might try one of these, but you don't have to, right? Like you might do one of these, but you don't have to. You want to see something even crazier? Again, people might read this and not really understand what it is that they're reading, but like it is really the case that let me see here. I don't know like the rule book by heart yet. Here we go. Now, this said it was action rolls. Okay, so that must be in the GM calling for action. Okay. Here we go. Nope, that's not what I'm looking for. I don't remember where it is. But like it's in the rules somewhere. I just don't know all the things yet. But one of the things that they say is like when you fail, it says you probably don't get what you were trying to do. Right? It's not even clear. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Okay, I found it finally. Like as I was about to give up. It says, on a failure with hope, things don't go according to plan. You probably don't get what you want. On a failure with fear, you probably don't get what you want. So even when you fail a roll, it's not always necessarily clear that the player actually failed. In fact, sometimes one of my favorite things to do is to let them succeed. But they didn't understand the consequence that action was going to necessarily involve, right? A player is trying to cross the bridge to get to the ogre. They make a check because, the bridge is falling apart. They fail. They get across. But as they get across, it causes the bridge to completely collapse. Exactly, GM Scott. You might update. So GM Scott's been playing with me in my Torchbearer campaign. And in Torchbearer, when you fail a roll, the GM has two choices. They can twist and create a new situation that you have to deal with, or they can give you the success, but then they also give you a condition. So one of the conditions that you can have in Torchbearer is angry. And in GM Scott's case, if he failed a cartographer check to make a map and update the map, I could say, you succeeded. It takes you a lot longer than you wanted to. Your memory isn't what you wanted it to be, and you keep having to erase. By the time you finished updating the map, you are furious and fuming, mark angry. So I have given him success, but it came at a cost that he didn't necessarily want to have. There's this idea of when the players fail, maybe just for a little bit, you can kind of take control of their character ever so slightly, just for a tiniest little bit, you know? And that makes failure scary, you know, which is important. Hey, Yes and Dragons. Welcome to the stream. Thank you for the very generous donation. I'm late, but I'm here now, manifesting more Daggerheart live streams and looking for more ways to contribute and collaborate. Yes and Dragons. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it so much, and you're doing a great job manifesting, and I really, really appreciate it. Tim, long weekend with the kids, culminating and being up early tonight. Night all. Well, Tim, enjoy. Sorry, we'll miss you at Origins this year, buddy. Hopefully, we'll get you out to Origins next year. Success at a cost is a yes, but narrative. Absolutely. So, as an example, going back to our examples before, so when the player fails, let's say they fail with hope. We'll actually break this down. So the player failed. So mechanically, what happens is they did not succeed, and then the GM, they get a hope, and then the GM gets to make a move. And so everybody immediately thinks, oh, right, so the GM's going to activate an adversary and attack, right? No. You can do anything you want, including making one of these suggested moves. So, for example, I might show how the world reacts because of the player's failure. I might ask a question and build on that answer. For example, I could what's here? I could shift the environment. I could show collateral damage. All right, you ready? Now, this might blow your mind. Okay, sword and board character. Now you might say, Derek, this sounds awful and horrible. I would never want to play in your game. Okay, don't. Your games will be sucks. They won't suck. All right. Ogre. Other side of the bridge. The bridge is collapsing. Or you know what? We'll change it up. We always go with the ogre. We'll go with the other one we always use. Necromancer. Okay. Necromancer. Other side of the bridge. He's completing his ritual. The ritual is going to, bind the undead army. It's like, I'm totally cribbing from the second Hellboy movie. He's going to bind the undead army to him. And he has to just complete this ritual, okay? And there's a bridge that connects to this, energy island that's floating in this cool, like, pit of undead souls, right? And on a previous player's roll with fear or maybe they failed, I described how some attack or something happened, or maybe, like, they threw an energy thing at the necromancer and it failed. And I described how the necromancer, waves his hand around in an energy shield. The ritual briefly, his attention turns from the ritual ever so slightly, right? Maybe they rolled hope, but he rolled a failure. And I described how he deflects the powerful energy wave and it strikes into the nearby bridge, which begins to collapse and fall apart. Boom. I stick a countdown clock on it. It's going to collapse. So the bridge is collapsing and the guardian, the warrior goes next. And the warrior's like, I'm running to the bridge. I'm trying to get to it. And I go, okay, warrior, like the bridge is completely almost collapsed. What are you going to do? He's like, I'm going to get to the edge of it as far as I can go. And I'm just going to like leap as far as I can. And I say, cool. And he fails with hope. So I have a mark of hope. Now I get to decide what happens. So he failed, right? So he falls to his death. No, but what I can do is I can show the collateral damage. I could force him I can reveal an unwelcome truth. I could reveal an unexpected danger. I want him to get to the other side. That's a badass moment. The guardian, or the warrior, is leaping through the air. Now, what does the warrior have equipped? Well, of course, he's got his shield in his one hand, and he's got his cool sword in the other hand. Warrior, you leap across to the other side. The bridge collapses. You're almost not about to make it. Maybe there's a brief moment of Legolas from Hobbit, if you like that sort of thing, but you just make it, grabbing the edge of the far bridge right before it completely collapses onto the other thing. But you drop. What do you drop? You drop your shield or you drop your sword? You have to make that choice. Now, you might say, that's not fair. And I'm like, shouldn't have failed then. Shouldn't have rolled with fear then. I'm making you make an uncomfortable choice. I'm asking you a question, and I'm building on the answer. You have to decide if your weapon or your shield falls down to the pit of undead souls. That's the move that I am making. I'm giving you your success. You failed the roll to jump across the bridge. But I'm saying, no, you made it, but it's come at a cost. And the cost is your weapon or your shield, pick one. You get to decide. And the reason we're in that place is because at this time, the game has explicitly given me, the GM, permission to fuck with you. You know? And in this particular instance, you failed with hope. So, you know, there's a kind of an idea. There's almost like kind of like a heroic moment here, right? Where it's like, you know, like they got to the end. He got across, right? The failure with fear would have been, I don't know, you jump and you realize that you're 10 feet short and you just fall and plummet into the pit and you die. Like, you know, in a movie things, right? You could grab to it. Could the player then say, no, I choose to fall into the pit and then hope for a better outcome? Dr. Waits, technically, no. But if a player really wanted to, I might say, okay. But I might even describe to them and say, well, just so you know, fictionally, if you hit the pit, I'm going to force you to make a death move because I don't care what your hit points are. Fictionally, that is a pit of undead demonic power or whatever, and it's just going to fry your character immediately. So then you could make that decision. I'm not going to, say no, I suppose at that point. But no, generally speaking, no. I mean, and I would be being generous, allowing them even to make that choice, because at this point, the player's out of the loop. It's my turn now. I'm the GM. Spotlight's on me. What do I want to do? This is what I want to do. Right? Would you offer that outcome without a roll? Chris Stevenson, that's a great question. You could. I don't think I would, Chris, because the chance of the player succeeding and leaping across heroically is too good. Like, for example, what would success with fear look like in that situation? Well, success with fear would be you run across the bridge, the stones begin to collapse behind you, and right before the bridge completely collapses, you get to the other side, sword and shield ready. The necromancer turns, distracted from the ritual, and glares at you as he begins diverting energy from the ritual, summoning a massive blast of necrotic energy in between his outstretched clawed hands. My fear move was, and I blow up the bridge. That was my GM move. I didn't make the necromancer just attack. I chose, the necromancer could have attacked, but I didn't want the necromancer to attack. I think it'd be cooler. In fact, honestly, Spotlight and Adversary is like one of the things I'll probably do the least when I run this game. I would much rather change the fiction and change the situation and change the outcome of what's going on. Now, I'm very used to this because I'm used to playing Dungeon World, where the monsters literally don't get to go. Right? You never roll the dice as a GM. Ever in Dungeon World. So everything that the monsters do is technically like a reaction to the players doing something anyways. Now, if I really wanted to, drive the point home, I might use the free move that I get from the player rolling with or succeeding with fear, and I might use the free move to be like, the bridge collapses behind you. By the way, you could argue I've shifted the environment, but I've also forced the group to split up, right? I'm kind of doing both ways. And then I might spend the fear point that I just got to have the necromancer crackle and break through the energy wave. But I tend to like to set up soft moves and then go to another player. The warrior just had a really cool moment. They leapt across, they're facing the necromancer. I've even described how the necromancer's attention is sort of being diverted from the ritual. He's about to blast the warrior with a massive necrotic blast wave. I've sort of hinted at that in the fiction. So now, instead of having him just attack, I'd much rather, boom, shift the spotlight back over to another character, describing them seeing the warrior running across the bridge and the necromancer turning to them, readying his deadly necrotic wave. What do you do, other PC? Right? And that gives you that sort of dynamic spotlight management that I'm talking about, where you're able to sort of give this sort of impression of simultaneity and simultaneous action. And you already know, right? It's almost kind of like a brief little rewind. And now, as a player, you know that the warrior gets across the bridge and lands. But now in the fiction, the warrior's making the run, but you see the necromancer beginning to charge up the thing. Now, I've hinted at maybe the very next act, maybe I'm about to spend fear to have the necromancer attack. But I've given the player that one opportunity to maybe do something, to disrupt that, to alter that, or to change that. And I think that's really cool because that lets the players still feel like they have agency and still feel like they have control, rather than me just going, every time you roll fear or fail, I'm just going to have the monsters attack. I like setting it up and then knocking it down, and then setting it up and then knocking it out, you know? But the key is, you know, is that I'm not just doing this willy-nilly. I'm doing this at the whims of the dice rolls, you know? Now, you could even argue, and I don't even think you would be arguing that much, right? What have I just done? Okay. In the fiction, I have done what we call in Dungeon World, I've done a soft move. The soft move is a setup. The setup is the warrior is running across the bridge. The necromancer turns and he starts to ready his massive purple energy blast. That's the soft move. I've hinted at the danger. I've now shifted the spotlight because, you know, the warrior is busy running across the bridge. It's almost like he's running straight into this energy blast. I then shift the focus to the party's, say, rogue. The rogue could say, all right, I'm going to finish killing this, you know, dread guard that I'm fighting. Cool. But my inner PBTA GM goes, so that's a golden opportunity. I set up the danger of this necromancer about to blast the warrior. Rogue, you chose to ignore that threat, and we're fine with the way that the fiction was playing out. That is a golden opportunity. I was giving you an opportunity to maybe try to disrupt it, or maybe try to change it, or maybe try to do something. You did not take advantage of that. And so I might attack the warrior essentially for free via a golden opportunity. And I would even classify that as such and phrase that as such, so your players understand what is happening, that there are consequences to their actions, but there are consequences to their inactions. It's just as important. And the players will start to feel this, what I call feralness of a combat, realizing that there are no correct answers. Everything you do has a consequence. So when the rogue turns back to defeat the Dread Knight and makes their attack, and I'm going to say, fine, you know, rogue, you move forward. And as you do so, the necromancer cracks. As a golden opportunity, he unleashes his powerful necrotic death wave into the warrior's chest. We'll get to that in a second. Rogue, finish your attack. We'll go over to the necromancer, and then we'll see what's up with the warrior next. And that's the table talk element of it, right? I'm building the scene as a director and sort of highlighting why your actions or your lack of actions have caused you to be in this situation. Because as long as a player can sort of trace the dotted line, the breadcrumbs back to, oh, this is how we got into this situation. It was because of what we did or what we rolled for or what were choices we made. I think that's really, really powerful. Iluvatar, just thought it was funny that Iluvatar, are you named after like Eru Iluvatar, or are you named after, I assume you're named after, I mean, because it's not exactly spelled the right way, but I just thought it was funny that it's a big ask to watch 200 hours of something to catch up, says the man streaming 40 hours in 2 weeks about one game. Fair, but you don't necessarily have to watch my Seraph video to know anything about the druid or the ranger, right? You could just watch that video and get benefit from it. It's pretty tough to just like sit down and start watching in the middle of an actual play and actually know of anything that we can do, you know? Derek's ogre is going to be a thing. Yeah. Lasers and feelings function the same way. It's true. Rolling dice is fun. Give that fun to the GM too. Regardless, I don't like rolling. I actually, if I have one complaint about, I understand why it's done this way, and I'm okay with it, but I actually prefer not to roll Darth Malicious. So as a GM, I don't think rolling dice is fun, and I don't want to. So I'd much rather the players roll all the dice. So Chris says, so the fiction places a character on the back foot to move to a different PC spotlight. Yeah, basically, right? I'm setting up a soft move, and now you have an opportunity to interact with that soft move before it becomes a golden opportunity for a hard move. And that's the classic 1-2 punch of PBTA. It's you make a soft move, which hints at a future threat. You then see how the players respond. And then if they don't respond, you follow up with a golden opportunity of the promised threat, right? You cock the fist. Okay, you didn't do anything. Boom, you get punched, you know? We've been over this. Okay. Long streams of Luvatar. All right. It's rip off. It is rip off, but not totally. All right. Fair enough. The first house rule we make in almost every game is trading attacks to defense. Yeah, I can respect that. So Darth Malicious, I think it's very simple. Make something as complex as it needs to be and not any more complex. The thing that's really important here about the asymmetry between the 2d12 and the d20, I know there might be reasons about, like, you know, the players' roles have more of a central distribution, and they could be more consistent. The players will feel more confident if they, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And whereas the d20 is completely random and nonsense. So, by the way, as an aside, you should know, randomness always favors the underdog, right? When, if you have no randomness, right, the better side, the better team will always win if you have no randomness. So adding randomness to a situation is only bad for the favored team. The D20 compared to the 2D12 is very random. This means that in a standard D20 game, the players are very much not the underdogs, right? The monsters are the underdogs. So the D20 actually highly favor, in a standard game, not just Daggerheart, but D&D. The fact that we're rolling D20 is actually very advantageous to the monsters because they are almost always, in almost every situation in any D&D game, the underdogs. So right off the bat, the D20 being highly volatile is very good for the monsters. The second thing is, so actually the monsters rolling 2D12 in some ways would be a nerf. So that's number one. So number two is, it makes the players more consistent or whatever like that. And, they can feel more consistent about their roles, which is good, which is fine. But the main thing is this: the players aren't just rolling 2D12 because somebody thought it'd be cool to have, instead of 1 to 20, that you have outcomes of 2 to 24 and a central distribution, right? 2D12 is not just taking the place of a D20. 2D12 is being rolled because we need to generate a hope or fear result. That takes one extra step of processing. I now have to add two numbers together and decide which one is higher. Technically 3 steps, I guess. The GM doesn't generate hope and the GM doesn't generate fear. So why make it any more complex than it needs to be? And the D20 is close enough in the numerical range, especially when you consider the fact that, rolling a 24 is a 1 in 144 event, right? Rolling a 2 is a 1 in 144 event. So while technically 2D12 is 2 through 24, It's really not, right? It's more like, 4 to 22, it's pretty close to a D20. So why make the GM roll 2D12 when we don't need to have that extra step because we don't care about the hope or fear? And it's just quicker and easier to roll a D20 and go 17 than to roll a 9 and an 8, add them together and go 17 when we don't care about the hope or fear die. So make it as simple as it needs to be and not any more complex than that. And in this case, the GM could just roll a D20. This also means the monster's attack rolls are a lot more fucking random. And that actually helps them because the monsters tend to be on the back foot. And so having a highly volatile die actually is a buff for them. So, yeah. So I'm totally fine with that level of asymmetry because it doesn't make any sense for the GM to roll 2d12. They don't generate hope or fear. Why would I need to roll 2d12? Just so that I use the same number distribution? Why? It doesn't matter. The monsters already don't use the same rules as players. Monsters don't have armor slots, right? So they're already using a completely different set of rules. Monsters technically don't have evasion. They have just this difficulty number, right? So I think that's kind of where it comes in. I love Nox. I feel like gating GM moves behind failed fear rolls and fear was a great frame to make adversary damage be roll free. But I think it was left in to not alienate 5e DMs. Maybe. That might be a good question to ask Spencer if we get him on the show. Merclore. So I 1,000 trillion 1 billion times % agree with you. The main thing that I love about PBTA is whenever I've taught RPGs to people, but even back in the day when I was like a kid and teenager, and I would describe the orc coming through the woods with his hacks raised, and the player would go, "Oh, I raised my shield in defense," and I go, "No, you just have to stand there and let me roll my die." And they're like, "Well, wait, I need to defend myself." Yeah, it's already baked into your thing. It's called armor class, It's instinctual for people to want to describe how their character is defending. And PBTA, especially Dungeon World, that is how it works, right? My orc attacks you. What do? I defend. It's like I engage it with hack and slash. And I find that very satisfying, like very satisfying. So the only reason I'm okay to a certain extent, maybe, because you're right, it doesn't do any fictional value, is there's that moment where the player gets to decide if they're going to mark an armor slot or not. And that does have a mechanical weight. And while there isn't any dice roll, that's fine. It's still a choice. And the player does get a moment to sort of describe how the armor, or maybe they're a wizard and they're full plate, but theirs is like layers of energy shields. All right. And they're sort of describing like Gandalf on the bridge of Khazad-dûm, and when he's holding off the Balrog's attack, the shields are mostly invisible. There may be a little bit of like a Schliering effect, but then it like focuses into a white hot burning light as it sort of absorbs it. And while you don't take any, like, the blade doesn't actually hit you, like the strain of it causes hit point damage, that kind of thing. So there's a moment for the player to sort of indicate in that respect, which is marking armor slots. But yeah, I actually completely agree with you. I have no comment. No notes. I think you're absolutely right. Let's see here. Yeah, Chris, you could totally start a dynamic countdown. And then, Chris, by starting a dynamic countdown, when that countdown finishes, it is by definition triggering a golden opportunity to then make a follow-up GM move. And Chris, I can promise you, from running a lot of Blades in the Dark and running a lot of Dungeon World after I played Blades in the Dark, which means I stole clocks. I do this all the time. I throw out all sorts of index cards all the time when I'm playing these games, and it's like things that are going to come true unless. And then when they do come true, I deliver with as hard of a move as I'd like in the fiction relative to that, relative to that implied threat. Gold Stackle, what's up? I just imagine that every scene is taking place in slow motion, so when you set up a soft move, there's an opportunity to avoid the outcome before it gets worse. And that's the idea, Gold Stackle. Not to be clear, as a director, you're GM, but as a director, If you think this is a good moment to deliver on a promise of badness, then you don't necessarily have to set up a soft move. Now, I should point out that for me personally, my PBTA is showing, if the player, say, fails with fear, I am going to be much more inclined to go direct to that hard move. Because failure with fear is the worst outcome. And in my mind, that's the equivalent to the PBTA 6-. The GM can make as hard of a move as they like. And that's sort of my opportunity as a GM to be a little bit evil and to put the players on the back foot and to sort of be, the Necromancer is going to attack. And then I'm going to spend a fear and the Dreadguard is going to attack. And then I'm going to spend another fear and make a GM move, which is to say that the spiritual well of energy starts to bubble forth and I'm going to throw down a 4 o'clock. And when it finishes, there's going to be a wave of necrotic energy that's going to wash over the battlefield and bring back to life all the undead that you've already killed. Okay, go. Right? That's like that. That's me ratcheting up the tension, ratcheting up the tension. And now the players, cool players, what do you do? What do you do? And that's a PBTAism, a Dungeon World. After every move, say, and what do you do? So I'm just describing, right? I'm just describing the fiction. I'm just describing what's going on and then passing it back. But I'm certainly inclined to treat failures with fear much more severely than failures with hope or successes with fear. To me, failures with hope and successes with fear are sort of in the soft move category. Yeah. GURPS uses 3d6. Is it superior? I'm going to say something here, which is GURPS should be superior to nothing. Even though GURPS was like my second RPG I ever bought, I have no particular love for it. Also, to be true, to Mark Lore, Yes and Dragons is correct, which is that how the fiction matters. It's a fiction first game, so it can matter. Like, let me give you an example. I activate my troll. So this is something I might do. For whatever reason, I activate my troll. My troll comes in and I describe him like the troll rings up its massive claws and starts raking them across you. What do you do? And the player is like, I'm going to raise my shield and try to just, fend off if its attacks. Cool. I roll. I miss. Clearly I miss because of your shield, because that's what you said. I drop another fear. I drop a fear point, and I describe how the troll rends your shield to pieces and destroys it. You gave me that opportunity in the fiction. We've clearly established that you used your shield to take the brunt of the troll's attack. If I was being particularly malicious, I might say it was a golden opportunity, but I don't think I would be that much of a dick. What I might do is set it up as a soft move and say that the troll starts tearing into your shields. It's left very fragile and splintered. And then if you do that one more time, that invites the golden opportunity to make the hard move to destroy the shield. But if I'm spending a fear point, maybe anything goes. Again, it's going to depend on the ebb and flow. And also, as a GM, you have a great deal of control over the type of game that you're telling. If you want your game to be Age of Umbra, gritty horror, shields are splintering, people are dying, sucking down chest wounds, you can do that using the Daggerheart engine. But you could also have everybody be anime superheroes where their armor is in pristine condition and their cloaks are still fluttering, rip free, regardless of the outcome of the battle. There's a lot of how the GM runs the game is very, very important, Erica, when Spencer's on the show. To be fair, Bob reached out to Spencer. Spencer was very amenable to coming on the show. Just said, obviously they're very busy right now with the hotness of the launch, and I'm sure they've got a lot of bigger, more important channels, to deal with, So he was very appreciative. Apparently Spencer was a fan of our show before we ever even did a Daggerheart thing. So and Mike Underwood was also in our comments and was also very much a fan of our content. So maybe we get Mike on as well. So so thank you, Erica, and I look forward to seeing you in a couple days. That's true. The hit point rolls could be anything. So it could just be anything. That is absolutely correct, Darth. I completely agree. I love how Derek's ratcheting up the tension is just changing the UHF channel. I don't know that I get that metaphor. And when I think UHF channel, I'm thinking like old TV antennas, but I don't know what that is. Oh, is that me going? Tick, tick, tick? Is that what I'm talking about? That's like the old dial on the TV. Is that what we're talking about? God, that. I was pretty young when we still had those, but yeah, I do remember that. Yes, Maury, I agree. GURPS is universal, but it is yes. Yeah, much love to Steve Jackson. Henrique says, can't repair the shield because it's broke entirely. Maybe, Henrique. Maybe it's a project. Maybe it's not something you can do in a short rest, but maybe it's something you can do in a long rest. Maybe. There's any number of ways and things that you could do to do this. By the way, this is how you get to really cool moments in your game, like Thorin Oakenshield. In case the lore is in the book, but in the movie it's very dramatized because they didn't really actually show the battle of. I think it's the battle of Azernapple, Battle of Azernapple, Battle of Azernapple, Battle of Azernapple, How badly did I butcher this? Okay, the Battle of Azanulbazar. I don't actually know. you tell me how this is pronounced. Anyways, this was the battle between the orcs and the goblins in the Third Age. This is where Thorin Oakenshield, whatever became Thorin Oakenshield, and the Battle of Azanulbazar. Anyways, the Thorin Oakenshield's shield gets destroyed, right? And in the middle of the battle, he's rolling over. The orc is coming at him, and he runs over and he grabs the fucking log, right? The big branch of oak, and he uses it as a shield. That's really cool. And like that kind of stuff can only happen if you're, playing fun and loose, with the D&D rules. But in Daggerheart, in Dungeon World, like that's the type of stuff that happens all the time. And I think it's cool. So, somebody's shield gets destroyed by the orc, they're rolling around outside and I'm like going in for it. And they're like, I look around, is there anything that I can grab? This is also where, me and my players get really, we really take the meta currency to to another level, the players like, I look around, I'm like, like spend a hope. And as you reach back, you grab, maybe it's really funny, like you grab an orc's dead body and you're using half of a goblin as a shield or something like that, and they're like, yeah, that's awesome. And they're like, what are the stats for it? I'm like, it gives you an extra armor slot or something, 2 armor slots. But, but if they crit, it cuts through the body, or something, you can just have fun with it, mess around with it. You could just, it doesn't matter, but yeah, it's, that kind of stuff is really fun for me, way more than having like, a very balanced 3-action economy type thing, Yes. Oh my God, sweet threat. So by the way, like that when that happens at your table, that's why I play D&D. That's why I play role-playing games, because somebody's like, I'm going to reach over, I'm going to like grab, is there like anything of like, is there like some sort of log? And like somebody goes, what are you trying to be, like Thorin Oakenshield? And I'm like laughing like, no, there's like, no, you guys are underground. There's no wood. And he's like, what about a body? I go, I don't know. There's half an orc over there. And he's like, I grabbed that. And then someone goes, dude, you're Thorin Oakenshield. And everybody loses their fucking mind and you're laughing like hyenas. Okay. That, I don't give a shit who the fuck Thorin is and his quest to avenge his father and his role playing and how you felt at that moment. I play for the hysterical laughter and the inside joke of Thorin Orkinshield that will reign forever in your group for the next 20, 30, 50. You'll be like senior citizens. Like, I'm going to be a senior citizen sitting there hanging out with Smith, and we're going to like make a joke from some D&D campaign from 40 years ago, and we're going to be like, good times, good times. And that's why I play the game, you know. Todd says, can I? For Pathfinder 2, can I? Only if you have the feat. And by the way, Pumpkin said the same thing. So in Pathfinder 2, you didn't use the corpse. You didn't take the corpse shield feat, so you cannot use that corpse as a shield. And rules is written, you know, you could not in Pathfinder 2. But that's because in Pathfinder 2, the rules are prescriptive. The mechanics are prescriptive. The rules tell you what you can do. Now, you could say, but I could ignore the rules in Pathfinder 2. I could do whatever I want. And that is true. Just like you could play Daggerheart and follow the rules to the T. But if you're doing that in Pathfinder 2 or you're doing that in Daggerheart, I'd argue you're probably playing the wrong game. And there's a lot of people who really appreciate the fact that you can't just pick up a corpse and start using it as a shield unless you took the corpse shield feat, because they appreciate the strategy, the combat, the build importance. And I'm not demeaning that. I think that is stuff that is very valid if you approach the game from a very competitive mindset. Like, I know they don't say that you can win RPGs, but the truth is you can. You can lose them. You can win them. And a lot of these tables and a lot of these games and a lot of these systems, believe it or not, I think are set up in a very competitive style. A game like Daggerheart and Dungeon World are not. They are set up in a collaborative style. Not competitive, collaborative. And so that gives you a very different perspective on how you're going to act and what you're going to do. So see, that's exactly sweet. That's what I'm here for. I'm here for the 25-year-old inside jokes. GM Scott, classic. What are we even doing here? Type refrain. So it's 1 a.m. Probably going to dip out here soon. But I will say this. The attention and focus that we've been getting from the community about Daggerheart has not gone unnoticed. I'm really excited to play this game. I've been wanting to play a 4th edition PBTA game for a long time. And somehow it takes the parts of 4th edition I like and leaves the parts of 4th edition that I'm not really particularly interested in playing right now, which is like a grid-based combat. But I like the mechanical elements, the resource management aspect of it, which this has. And it's very narrative fiction first, which is great. But Smith is very interested. Bob was recently introduced to the game system just last week, is very interested. And Tim is very interested. And for those of you who don't know, Bob, Tim, Smith are all veterans of various actual plays on this channel, from Root to Quest for the Frozen Flame to Rise of the Rune Lord. Bob's been in all of them. Tim was in our first 2. Smith was in our last 2. We want to play this game. I want to play this game. And you all, I think, want to see us play this game, especially if I can do it in a way that really highlights the educational component and could become a useful tool for you to get a better handle on what this game could do and be. And by the way, I'm not an expert, you know, like, I played the games, sure, but I'm here learning just like you. The fact of the matter is, right now, the VTTs suck. And I personally don't want to use even one of the Foundry games that's been written because it is not officially supported. This isn't our private home game. This is going to be publicly available on YouTube. So I do not want to use anything that's unofficial. I want to play nice with the people at Darington Press. So Foundry's out. Now, we could play on Owlbear Rodeo, on Miro, and roll in Discord. That's all great. The problem there is when you're playing a live stream and I want to share information, it becomes really problematic and becomes very difficult. When people are at home and their character sheet's just on a piece of paper, right? So the other option is Roll20 and Demiplane. And that would work. But for ethical reasons, I completely do not support Demiplane. I've talked about this at length, and I basically refuse to use Demiplane. And since the only Roll20 integration is with Demiplane, this limits my ability to use that. So the only official platform is one that, for my own personal reasons, I will not use. I will not support Demiplane. Same reason I don't support D&D Beyond. I just think that model is horrible. And so I don't like it. And I do hate, yes, Kyle, I do hate Demiplane with a particular passion. I don't fault anyone for using Demiplane. I don't think you're a bad person if you use Demiplane. It's just not a service, and not but also too, I've heard it's not even that great right now, because I've heard it's very laggy and the latency is a problem. The other issue is it doesn't really help solve my issue, because the Demiplane character sheet is local on your machine. The GM, still can't access it easily through the VTT. Okay. So basically there's really no good way for us to play this on VTT. Yes. Maury's very laggy. Yes. I've heard the lag is also very terrible. Now, TTS would work great, but it would be very difficult. And the other problem Woodland Fellowship is, again, officially, the community gaming license does not give permission for any virtual tabletop, including VTT, including TTS. So even though the TTS version is really cool, it is unsupported. It is not official. And I don't want to be, the same way I don't want to be, stealing things and showing, I'm trying to play nice, and they have this community gaming license. I'm trying to respect it. So there's another thing. So basically the only way I could really technically do it right now online is with Roll20. So I'm not going to do it with Roll20. So what does that leave me with? Playing in person. And we are trying to figure that out. I hesitate to say the studio's back, but due to the increased interest and the incredible support that we've been getting from the community and our patrons, we, the Knights of Last Call, are very much trying to figure out the logistics of how we can get in person and play games again, which would definitely include Daggerheart. It's again, it's 1 a.m. It's late. I'll definitely have more information for my patrons, but I will say this. The real problem is that in order to have a good in-person setup, realistically, that meets our standards of audio and visual quality, it has to be a permanent setup, right? It has to be something that we can leave permanently up. And, it's got to have the stable internet connection, but the lights and the cameras and all that other stuff. Well, unfortunately, my friends all have homes with children and wives and children, and them being able to leave something up permanently and convince someone, hey, we're just going to take over this room and completely use it, is not something that is very valid. So it's not an option. But I also can't afford anything. So what do I have? Well, I have my house. Like, I have a condo. It's a bigger condo, but it's a condo. But Derek, where you don't have, you've said before, you don't have room. I do. If I give up my bedroom, if I give up my master bedroom and I convert my master bedroom into a streaming studio, we could make it work. So that is what I am looking to do. I am going to not have a bedroom. So, if I want to be, if I want to do this full time, if I want to, make this happen, this is what I got to do. I've done the math, I've done the numbers, I've done all the stuff. The only thing that really works, there's only two things that would work in my house. One is my garage and one is my bedroom. My garage, of course, is still full of, dirt and debris from the fire, but also my garage is not air conditioned or heated. So not really a great situation for the garage is far too dangerous. You'll get cancer just from sitting in there. But Yes and Dragons, the most important part, like I said, was it needs to be free and a place where I can leave up $27,000 of gear permanently, which is most places don't really work for that. With it being my bedroom, I can set everything up permanently. I can leave it set up. I can use my streaming computer. Because also the other problem is we had a separate computer. We had a streaming computer that was at the studio that I used to process and encode the stream and blah, blah, blah. Then I have my computer at home, which is here in my home little office. This is, by the way, my third bedroom. It's upstairs. I think it's 8 feet by 10 feet. I think it's 8 feet by 10 feet. So it's 80 square feet, 8 feet by 10 feet. This is where I stream from. This has always been my spare bedroom. And at times, at one point in time, it used to house chinchillas when I had chinchillas. And then for a long time, it was just like a guest bedroom. I just had like a double. Yeah, not a queen. I had like a double bed in here, and that was basically it. And then eventually it became where I stream from here at home. But I'm going to move my bed. I think it should fit in here. Now I have a king-sized mattress, so it's going to be a pretty tight fit. So I'm hopefully not going to end up sleeping on a couch. But I probably will have to sell my furniture. I don't know if I'm going to be able to fit like my my dresser and stuff in here. So I'll probably have to sell my bedroom furniture, and then I'll just have my bed. And maybe a nightstand. Maybe I can find maybe the nightstand will fit, and that's it. What else do I need? What do I need in a bedroom? I just need a bed and maybe something to put my drink of water on, and I have a little lamp, so I can read. That's all I need. I don't need anything else, right? So hopefully I won't end up on the couch. Hopefully. Roman, thank you, Derek the Madman, the man with the plan. I'm hyped. So now, to be clear, we're going to try to make this look good. And now, it's not going to be, as nice as the studio. Okay. It's not going to be, it's not going to be as comfortable. We're not going to have 1,000 square feet, to really feel out the space. It's going to be a little bit more cozy, but I think we could make it work. I think we'll see. Will having such a close attachment between work and sleep have a negative effect on your mental health? That would be my concern. Well, Woodland Fellowship, for the 4.5 years that I worked at my data science job remotely, my work computer was on a desk in my bedroom. So I had a desk in the corner where I had 2 monitors and my laptop, and I would wake up from my bed and I would go to the bathroom and come back into my bedroom and sit in my chair, and that's where I would work from. So I've already I'm already used to my bedroom being my workroom, Unfortunate Pumpkin says, as someone that currently doesn't even have a bedroom, I'd kill to sleep in your streaming room. Well, there may not be a lot of room in there when we're done. But Unfortunate Pumpkin, why don't you have a bedroom? Are you sleeping on a couch? Get one of those special couch beds. Yeah, the pull out. Is that what they try with the pull up beds? But Quest Derek, could you open up more Squire places for localized Eastern European and other low currency guys? Darth, yeah, I can absolutely do that. The only reason Squire is capped Darth Malicious is just because it was always designed as sort of like an entry point. But yeah, I could definitely open it up. I can do that right now. Hammocks are very space efficient. You know, I experimented with them on the trail, and I didn't really like it. It was not my fine. It's not my favorite way to sleep. All right. All right, Darth, I opened up the $3. I opened up the $3 tier for you. So when are we getting sleeping streams? Well, you know, soon. Oh, Murphy breads. Yeah, Murphy breads would be great. Can I DM you on Discord? I'm in the process of putting a space like this together right now. Wait, which? A small bedroom which only has a single king bed in it, or something else? I'm living in a 1-bedroom with a roommate. He has the room. I'm moving into a 2-bedroom with my girlfriend and no roommate soon, though. Flex. Don't flex at me. I mean, I'm happy for you, but also I'm sad for you. I say this as a jaded person who's been in, like, you know, 6, 7 relationships, and I'm always happier when I'm single. Not because the girlfriends are bad people. Sometimes they're bad people, but I don't like being told what I can, you know. I don't like being told. Not even being told what I can't do. I don't like the implication that I can't just do whatever I want whenever I want to do it. Anyways, I'm going off on a whole thing here. Yeah. Well, Darth, I appreciate. I mean, listen, Darth. You know, I mean, anybody who wants to support us and be part of our community I will happily have you. So yeah, it won't be as it won't be as yeah, I can't be tied down. I just can't be tied down. I like being. Listen, you know what? When you do something like, well, I got laid off, I lost my job. I really want to make this YouTube thing work because I like role-playing games and I like not having a boss. It's kind of a struggle bus. I think it'd be pretty cool if we could have a studio again, but I can't afford it. You know what? Let's get rid of the bedroom. Those are hard decisions to make, believe it or not, when you have a partner of any gender. So I like being able to just be like, you know, to quote Noah, fuck it, we ball, you know? Right. Exactly. No. She's killing me, right? Exactly. And rightfully so. You know, I get it. You know, I get it. I'll give you another one. I live in Northeast Ohio. Okay. So I live in Cleveland. So, you know, it's, you know, wintertime is a thing here. It's cold. Do you know what I do in the wintertime in my bedroom? I close the door to my bedroom. I close all 3 of the heat vents of the heat registers, and I sleep in the wintertime with my windows open. Okay. And I have this incredible, amazing comforter. It was like $500 or something like that. It was a pretty expensive comforter, right? And my 2 dogs sleep in the bed with me. Obviously, they're little furnaces, and I get under that. And sometimes I have another blanket, like a more of a knitted one or a wool one that I put on top. Okay, and it is freezing, like in my room, and it's so good. It's so good, right? Because it's cold, but I'm warm. I'm under the covers. You know. Let me tell you something. At least there's no partner on earth that is going to be okay with that sleeping situation. Okay, but I can do it if I want to, and I do. Gamma Doodler confirming that wives and kids get weird when you start taking their bedrooms away, so that I can make my streaming. You know, I need my streaming studio, but. Yeah, You know, I viewed this as a sign because I had been thinking about this even back during the root days. I was like, man, if I had a bigger stream deck, I could put more information on the stream. And so I saw this thing was on sale, and I was like, maybe this is a sign. So, why room cold if you warm? No. The point is, I want to have to get warm to be under the covers to get warm, right? I don't want to just like, I would rather be, if I had my choice between it being really cold and then I have to have a lot of blankets on to be warm, or I could just be laying in my bed with like a very thin blanket or like a sheet or nothing and be the same temperature, I will still choose the blankets. Make sense? I don't think I'm crazy. I think there's a lot of people who would agree with me. Exactly, Maury, the contrast. So I'm going to try to make this happen. There's going to be some additional, hoops and hurdles to go through. There might be some, obviously this studio will have to go away in some capacity. So there would be changes to the show, and to the things, because this, my bed would be sitting right here right now. So assuming I don't want to get rid of my bed, and it's a very nice mattress. I spent a lot of money on it. Someone told me once, I don't think I read it. I think I was told, whatever. It was like, make sure you spend a lot of money on your mattress. You're going to spend a third of your life in it, which is good advice. I don't like the wind from the ceiling fan blowing full blast on me all year, but that's what the wife wants. So I have to use extra blankets just to avoid the windstorm. Well, number one, I also sleep with a box fan turned on. And I do that, for the white noise, but I also like the movement of the air. I'm more comfortable with that. So I would get along with that fine. But also, that's my point. See, you don't want the windstorm. The wife wants the windstorm. You get the windstorm, So that is also an option. 65 with a heavy blanket. I mean, I could tell you that that's what's going on right now. It's the summertime. I'm going to be sleeping tonight with those dogs. Maybe not my super heavy winter blanket, but I'm going to have a blanket on because we got this thing turned down real low. This bitch real low. But anyways, I'll have more details for my patrons as they kind of emerge, and we'll have some ideas. And I started teasing a little bit about this in my patrons today. But my hope is that I could figure out a way to stream from my house and get Bob and Smith and Tim back on the thing. See, Dr. Waits, your point isn't even valid because your wife is here. I listen, Narwhals, I'm completely with you. It's all about being cozy. And cozy is warm inside, cold outside. I love it. There's a lot of things I don't like about the winter these days. I used to love the winter. I still do. But as I grew older, I become less in love with it. But I love when it is cold outside and I am warm inside. And that is such a great feeling. Cozy. Nice hot cup of tea or hot cup of coffee, and the sound of like the wind, the ice crystals from the snow hitting against the window panes. But yeah, there we go. So we're going to figure that out and hopefully come up with a solution that works. And then if it does work, hopefully we can get some fucking games going on, and we can get Bob over here. We can get Tim over here. We can get Smith back on the channel and, have us run some games. And again, hopefully do it in a way that could be very educational as well as entertaining. So that's the plan. The bribery worked, you guys have done a great job of supporting us. And I don't know, there's a lot of games that I want to play. So the other advantage I have, by the way, is like, my buddy George, my buddy Tim, they're not working right now either. So I got a bunch of friends from my gaming group who aren't even working right now. So who knows? Maybe we get a second campaign going, and that bitch is at midnight, or not midnight. The bitch is at noon, in the middle of the day, because whatever, we'll have a different campaign. George, what game do you want to what game do you want to play, George? Primal Fire, it worked, assuming I can make it work. Does that make sense? I have to figure out, because like, if there's no way that I'm going to be able to, like, okay, so like straight up, the way that the studio was designed, we did it in such a way that none of the cameras were visible. We are not going to be able to do that in my bedroom. So like, if this was a shot of Tim, you might see, you know, back here, if I could do it, back here, there might be a camera that is looking at Bob. Does that make sense? Right? Like, but you might see the camera behind me in the screen. Like, there's just no way that I have the room to do what I did at the studio, which was to hide the cameras, you know, through angles and stuff like that. You know, just that is not going to happen. Straight up. So, well, left-handed not. A couple of things. Number one, I mean, briberies are always good, but you know, if I can't make it work, it's because it's just not a physical possibility, right? Like, you know, the knights aren't. We're not the smallest of people. You know, some of us are tall, some of us are wider, some of us are tall and wider. You know, so there's only so much physical space that we can work with. You know, and then on top of that, I got to fit in lights and cameras and action. So, you know, I gotta do some sketching and some diagramming and figure out a way to make it move. Yes, everyone's very concerned about the heat. But this is actually a legitimate thing, you know? So, like, I can't put it in such a way, like I can't build the studio in such a way that like my cold air returns are, blocked or anything like that. Well, that's not, you know, at the end of the day, Gamma Doodler, you know, Bob and Smith and Tim, you know, they all have kids and stuff like that. They have responsibilities as dads and stuff. So I can't, you know, I can't expect them to be as committed as, say, I am. But yeah, you know. Well, that's the good news, left-handed not. My studio lights do not, generally. All of my studio lights are mostly LED panels. I have some that are chip-on-board lights, or what they call cob lights, but I don't have any bulbs. So most of my lights are flat panel LEDs. So they're very low heat. Don't get me wrong, you know. So Gamma Doodler, no, I don't think so. Bob doesn't really like dogs. He's like afraid of my two dogs, and my dogs are like 30 pounds. So VLDL. Who is VLDL? Did a different channel for the stuff less people watch. So if you want to grow the channel, oh no, I don't give a shit about that. My views are already botched, Darth Malicious. I don't give a shit. Oh no, my actual play only got 1,000 views, whereas my 6-hour live stream only got 1,500 views. It doesn't matter. There's no channel for me to tank, so I don't give a shit. I never have. This channel, let me be very clear about this. This channel lives and breathes and dies because of my patrons and because of my patrons who tip. I mean, we get some people who tip who aren't patrons, but most of the people who are tipping are also patrons. To put it into perspective, the super chat's at 87. The tip's at 100. So that's $187. Now, on one hand, that's amazing. On the other hand, you know, when I had a job, I made a lot more than $187 every single day. Oftentimes for doing very little work. You know, I would wake up, answer some emails, write 50 lines of code, 20 lines of code, 0 lines of code, and then be like, cool, I earned my, you know, $500 or whatever today. So obviously, on one hand, it's amazing. On the other hand, not so great. But let's go with that $187 figure. If this was a video, you know, like a YouTube video, I earn about $5 per 1,000. That means for this to earn $187 from AdSense, this video would have to get 40,000 views. And I don't know if you paid attention, but unless you're, I don't know, XP to level 3 or Ginny D or a handful of other creators, getting 40K views on a video is pretty tough. So to that end, I make as much, if not more money with almost no views because of the incredible support of an elite few people who really appreciate this content. So this is very clearly a sort of bespoke, curated, type of channel because I can afford to be. I don't have to play Nonat, who I've never met, but we've both been in the Pathfinder 2 space back in the day, and he started before me, but we're kind of in the same way. I've seen him struggle over the years with sort of, what am I doing with this whole YouTube thing and all this other stuff? And he was always talking about the burnout and the pressure and all. And I feel bad because I genuinely don't feel that way because I don't care. I don't care about the algorithm. I never have. I just make the videos I want. And I found an audience who really supports it and who seems to be largely made up of IT professionals with disposable income. So thank you, gentlemen and ladies, and non-binary folks. But it's, that affords me a certain amount of luxury that I don't have to chase, the views. But here, look at this. Professor DM, who, by the way, has 145,000 subs. That is 10 times more than me. He did a D&D clickbait scandal video 2 weeks ago, and he got 60K views. So that would have done about $200. And that's a channel with 150K subs. I'm not getting anywhere close to that ever. So I don't really care. So instead, I make the content that I like, and I trust that people who appreciate that will show their appreciation. And obviously, I like to listen to my patrons, and I like to listen to their concerns and what they're interested in so that I can try to give them content. But the fact of the matter is my Patreon is so diverse that it's very difficult for me to just make one thing and have everybody in my Patreon enjoy it because some people love PBTA and other people hate PBTA, Yeah, in a way, Chris, I'm like a waiter, I basically make in fact, Chris, that's actually a really good analogy, because I could show you how much money I make off of YouTube. And the answer is I make about $200 a month off of YouTube. So that's my base pay, I make about $200, $250 a month from YouTube, right? The rest of the money comes from tips, super chats, Patreon, Twitch Prime subs, Twitch paid subs, Twitch gifted subs, super thanks, right? All those things, and let me put it this way. I would not have been able to, I didn't choose to leave my job. I got laid off. I would not be able to even consider not going and immediately getting another job if it wasn't for my patrons and if it wasn't for the tips. If I was just relying on YouTube views, I'd be fucked. And quite frankly, that sounds like that would be very stressful. So I could get why people get burned out on that because they feel like they have to chase the algorithm and they always have to be one step ahead of, whatever else, blah, blah, blah is. And I just don't feel that way. I never have. Ronald seems to do all right. Very volatile, though. Yeah, and Ronald's a great guy. Actually, he just did a video, and I was watching it, and he shouted me out at the beginning of it. He was talking about 4th edition D&D, and he was like, where did I hear this from? Oh, he's like, I heard that from Derek over on Night's Last Call. He was talking about 4th edition and healing surges, which is cool. No, Ronald's great. And I've done collabs with Ronald. I think Ronald does a great job, and he puts together a great show. And he's in my mind, he is the Pathfinder 2 guy. I think, it's no longer Nonat. Yeah, I get stuff demonetized all the time, Primal, because we did an actual play episode of Quest for the Frozen Flame, and Smith's character, Bob's polar bear, was drowning in an underground pond that was 10 feet deep, and Bob's polar bear started drowning, and so Smith's character, who had a really good athletics, described stripping off his armor and his shirt and diving in, Baywatch style, and I started playing the Baywatch theme song. I literally played it for less than 30 seconds, but we got completely demonetized. And it didn't matter. I don't care. It's just oh, you can have my $5. I don't give a shit. They don't take my tips. They don't take my super chats. They just take the AdSense, and I don't give a shit about that. No, like that's where Hatchet-Hoff kind of became, because it was like Hasselhoff, and then you, George, made the joke about it being Hatchet-Hoff, and that's how the whole thing of Hatchet-Hoff started. Well, sick. That would be amazing. We'd really appreciate that. But as someone who just paid a massive tax bill this year, and I mean, by the way, I got to pay that tax bill right after I got laid off, so that was really awesome. Luckily, I had saved up for it because I pretty much knew what my tax bill was going to be. But the other bad thing about YouTube income is that they don't hold anything back for your withholding. So if you're not smart about your tax liability, you're going to get stuck with a big tax bill come April, and you got to make sure that you are prepared for that. So I remember in our Poppet Christmas Carol, that one got demonetized because we sang Mariah Carey's "All I Want for Christmas Is You," and like we sang it, and it was so horrible. But it was the algorithm. It was close enough. The algorithm copyright stole it, and we got demonetized. If I was interested in D&D rant, there's the quite Irish girl. I don't know who that is. Quiet? Is that a person? Is that a streamer? I don't know who that is. The cute Irish girl. Who's the cute Irish girl? Is that Ginny D? Is that who you're talking about? Oh, that was really bad, GM Scott. I mean, there's been some bad moments on this stream, but that was really bad. That was one of the worst. Not like Darth Malicious says RFC or Professor DM, Bob World Builder, they do the algorithm. Also Ding Guy. It's just the thing is, yeah, no, I mean they all do. And, and that's okay. I mean there's a place for that. Obviously, people watch those. Those guys wouldn't make that content if they didn't have people who wanted to watch that content. So they are doing a service for the community. In fact, I say they are doing the greater service for the community, because that is what people either want to watch or have the time to watch. I fully respect the fact that some people say, Derek, I love your stuff, man, but shut the fuck up. You talk forever. I get it. It's not an easy video to sit down and watch. So, yeah, I get it. Hey, Therians, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Hey, listen, as someone who, again, I got laid off in April, man. I get it. I'm trying to hustle my own self here. So if you give me the Bezos dollars, I appreciate it. Remember, if you want to be cool like Therians, every month you have a Amazon Prime sub. You can drop it my way or drop it somewhere else. Give it to someone else who's hustling and trying to make it happen. Might as well just take it out of Bezos's wallet. He'll keep it if you don't. Oh, Dungeons and Discourse. Got it. Yes, she is Irish. Is she Irish? Yes, she's Irish. That's awesome. Absolutely, Mateo. I mean, that's the whole point. Take care, Therians. That's the whole point of the Patreon. I get to do what I want, and I kind of say fuck the algorithm, which is great. And that's awesome. Ooh, Maury, that is rough. I mean, it's definitely going around, It's definitely going around. It's tough times, I hesitate to, they always say, you never know if you're in a recession until you're past it. But, I know right now in our gaming group, like half the people are without jobs. And the other of the half that do have a job, I think most of them are potentially very concerned about the future stability of their job. So it's a rough spot to be in. So my heart and my sympathy certainly go out to everybody. That being said, I'm going to try this week to enjoy Origins. I bought my hotel and I bought my badge back when I had a job. So, the money was a little bit freer. Maybe I can't go as ham on buying new games as I might normally, would like to at Origins. But I'm going to have some nice dinners, and I'm going to have some drinks with some friends and get to hang out with my patrons. And, again, a lot of these people are people I've known now for 4 years, and I've met them many times. So they really do feel more like friends. I mean, I try to avoid any sort of, pretenses of parasocialism, but these are people I play games with, I've hung out with, I've drunk with, like we've met each other in person many, many times, and I genuinely consider them to be, pals and buddies. And I really appreciate that. So it's a fun opportunity for me to get to do that, and it's really, really a great time. So looking forward to the convention. And it's actually convention season, because when I get back from Origins a month later, I'm going over to Gen Con. Shout out to Roll for Combat for basically sponsoring me to go. Stephen Glicker from Roll for Combat he bought me my badge as an exhibitor. He's letting me crash at his Airbnb. So he's being a real class act. So awesome for that. So, and I might be going out to PAX West come September. So like every month for the next 3 months, I'm going to be going to some sort of convention. So, but again, some of it was paid for back when I had a job, and some of it's being sponsored by me doing some stuff for Roll for Combat. So yes, Origins. I see GM Scott answered it. But yeah, Origins is maybe like the third or fourth, fifth largest gaming convention in the United States. And it's in Columbus, Ohio. So 20 to 25,000, attendees. Gen Con's like 75, 80,000. So Gen Con's like literally like 4 times as big. Cool. Yeah. I mean, Gen Con's a great time. I wish there were things about it that I don't love anymore, because it's gotten very big and very popular, but that's not for that rant is not for today. Ooh, your husband was laid off in April from his data science job as well. I'm helping him work on applications right now. Yeah, well, I worked in data science, so I feel that. That was my job. I was senior data scientist. Now I am nothing. Now I am professional YouTuber. The kids go crazy when I tell them that. All right, folks, I'm going to wrap it up here. We'll probably be on tomorrow. This week is kind of, loosey goosey, but I'm going to bring my lavaliers. I'm going to bring my stuff so we can do I'll bring my tripod, and we'll do a stream from Gen Con or from Origins. Maybe I can get Bob hop on. Maybe we can get some patrons if they want to stop by. We can just kind of shoot the shit, talk about Origins, talk about what's cool, see what we're saying. As for a topic for tomorrow, I have no idea. Obvious. I don't know. Maybe we won't even have a stream tomorrow. I don't know. I kind of told myself I was going to take this week off, but it's fine. But yeah, we'll do a vlog. Dr. Waits, I look forward to seeing you in Narwhal at Origins. A whole load of data scientists were laid off in my work too. My brother was laid off from his data scientist job in December. Yeah, it's going crazy. Well, look, I mean, I enjoy hanging out with you all. I enjoy talking games. I mean, the reason I started this channel is because I like talking about role-playing games. I'm not doing this for a YouTube channel. I'm doing this because I like talking about role-playing games, Have we done a homebrew review on stream? You know what, Primal Fire? We have not. We have not. We also haven't looked at the Dread domain, and if we want to do a Daggerheart stream. I don't know if we're going to do a Daggerheart stream, but maybe I'll do a first look and look at TTRPG. We did have a popular video today, so I think we need to cancel that out and balance that with something that's only going to get 800, 900 views, right? I can't let you people get too comfortable with popularity. So got to keep it in balance, right? All things. We got to Thanos this thing, all things balanced as it should be. So look forward to talking to you all tomorrow. And of course, if you're on the Patreon, let me know, drop me something at KLC content. Let me know what you want to do. Maybe we'll just do something fun. Yeah. Oh, Smendon, I'm very aware of this. I need to keep stay small, stay humble. So fantastic. Has anybody heard of Nimble RPG? I have. It's one I'd love to see covered in a first look one day. I mentioned the channel to the creator, and he's interested in a long form look at his game. I don't remember if I backed it. I did or not. I'm aware of it. I remember we talked about it like a while ago on the Discord. No, it doesn't look like I backed it. But I see the comments now. Go look at Livestream. Go look at my favorite TTRPGs and lessons from summer 2024, Livestream number 228. Because there is a comment there where somebody said, at 1 hour and 57 minutes, I ended up backing Nimble. The design direction of the classes and spells were intriguing. The whole thing still needs a lot of polish, but he is very upfront about that. So it looks like, this is going to be very meta. It looks like we talked. It looks like we talked about it. A lot of people check those out. Let's see here. Oh yeah, so
waiting 15 minutes for your turn just to miss your attack.
So we talked about it.
Attacks are fast and heroic. No more fiddly back and forth just to see if you even hit. The overhauled combat system keeps things quick yet deeply strategic. And with exploding critical hits, you can retain the chaotic excitement of battle.
By the way, I don't know what this backer thing ended up. Let me say here, what was it called? Nimble 5e backer kit. I don't know what this thing ended up finishing at here, but let's take a look. Apparently this is it. It ended up finishing at $265,912. Let me just say something really quick. If I could do a Kickstarter or a backer kit and make $265,912, my financial situation would be very different. Okay. Let's just say that. So I think we talked about it, but I didn't back it. Am I going to do a first look of Draw Steel and the Cosmere book? I didn't book Cosmere because I don't like Brandon Sanderson. I love what he did with Wheel of Time, but I'm not a fan of Mistborn, and I'm not a fan. I don't know anything about his world, and I don't know anything about the Cosmere verse or whatever it's called. I think it's just called the Cosmere. The Brandon verse. I don't know anything about it, blah, blah, blah. But I did back Draw Steel. So I'm actually a Matt Colville patron. So I will definitely do Draw Steel when it releases, for sure. I will definitely talk about it. So that's cool. Yeah, I mean, I remember, if I recall correctly, I remember being like, well, the premise sounded interesting and neat, but, 5e compatible. It was kind of like a 5e, but better. And, quite frankly, that wasn't really what I'm interested in or looking for. Same reason why I didn't really pick up Vagabond, Tales of the Valiant, Legends of the Valiant, Advanced 5e. Like there was this whole litany of like 5e but better Kickstarters that came out kind of circa post OGL, blah 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 blah. Well, the good news, Left-Handed Knot, is it almost certainly did not. Again, I don't know that they are all, but according to his page here, he had 4,290 backers. Does Backer Kit tell you what people backed at? Doesn't. Oh, is it just the one backing? Maybe. Or maybe that shows me it. Oh, here we go. Okay, cool. All right. So, 1,322 of them were pure PDF backers. So there's no cost to deliver that. Okay. So you had close to $2,700, which were a premium box set, all A5, and then 3 books, soft covers. Let me tell you something. As I've become more aware of this industry, I'm not even joking, at this size of printing, to print these books, a couple dollars a piece. Soft cover like this, a couple dollars a piece. So to print all of these books might be like $6, $7, $8. And to get it shipped, printed in China, shipped here, with shipping, you might be looking at like, $12 or something all in on these 3 soft covers. So assuming that he doesn't have, but obviously costs can shift and change and stuff like that. He upgraded on the hardcover. To be fair, that really does. You'd be surprised. That doesn't really add that much more money to it. Like at the production that they do, D&D books, which are really nice, right? The D&D books, the 5e books, at their scale, they pay like less than $2 to print a book. So when they're selling it to you for $60 or $70, think about that. at their scale. So one of the advantages of doing a big Kickstarter like this is you can print at such a scale that it ends up actually costing you less money. So not only did you make more money, but you also make more money. It's pretty fucked up. Now, art, but that's the thing about art too, Mateo. If I did a $60,000 Kickstarter, the art's going to cost me $35,000. If I do a $250,000 Kickstarter, the art's going to cost me $35,000. You get what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Like the art is a fixed cost. Whether you're printing thousands of books or you're printing 200 books. And so when you do a big Kickstarter like this, you can make, I'm not even kidding you, a lot of money. A lot of money. Now, again, apparently he's doing this by himself, which means that, he doesn't have to pay designers and he doesn't have to pay, layout editors and all this other stuff. So, yeah, it's a lot more work, but it could be worth it because you can make a nice pretty penny. Now, the downside is if this, this is 5,318% funded. So that means that he would have been fine with this thing making, he would have been fine with this thing making $5,000, right? $5,000 would have met his level, right, of pledging. But let's just say it was $10,000. Let's say he did double what his minimum funding was, $10,000. Well, $10,000, he probably loses money. He probably doesn't break even, especially if he's paying for art or doing anything like that, Especially, Kickstarter takes, or back, I don't know what backer kit takes. Kickstarter takes 5%. So it's a very weird type of situation, is all I'll say. And it's, and obviously if you strike it rich, Nimble 2 here did $250,000, DC 20 from the Dungeon Coach did $2.2 million. I mean, Dungeon Coach isn't a full, Alan's a guy, he's got some people he works with, but that buys a lot of art, and at the scale of printing, of 5,000 books, yeah, I mean, Shadow Dark, the most recent one, GM Scott, I don't remember what it was called. Maybe it wasn't here. Was it on Backer Kit? Western, not Northern. Western Reaches. Here we go. Let's log in here. So, I guess I gotta do this. Schmucks like me who backed it at the $229 level, all 1,317 of us, she did 2.5 million. Yikes. Kelsey's, Arcane Library, she's got some people, but, digest size, black and white art, black and white covers, the paper's pretty, standard toothy. It's not like a high gloss, super premium finish. I don't know what it costs her to put together this premium kit, but my guess is it's going to be, under $20 and I'm paying $229. And by the time it gets shipped and brought to my door, it'll probably be $30. Now you could see where the tariffs could obviously, and this is, by the way, one of the reasons why Kelsey could eat the tariffs, because her profit margin on these things were so good because she did so fucking much of it. I mean, I was shocked that it did this well. It'd be great for her, but 13,800 people. But this is also the crazy thing. I mean, it goes without saying that for most of us, okay, like, let's just pretend for a moment. I don't even know, like, her costs, and Kelsey's a genius. Like, she's so smart. So she probably does this from the best possible way. And I really do mean that. Like, I've I've talked shop with her, but I've also hung out with her, and she's very kind and very sweet, but she is very smart. And she has a very smart wife. Let's say, this is for most people, let's say that you spend $1 million fulfilling this Kickstarter because you do most of the writing yourself and you have black and white art. Let's just say, though, you spend $1 million, which I think is a lot. You're still going to be left with $1.5 million in the bank. Now, it goes without saying that $1.5 million isn't like I can never work again money. Not anymore, not these days. But for most of us here, if you made $1.5 million on your RPG Kickstarter, it would fundamentally change your life. I mean, for most of us, that's going to mean paying off our house, paying off any outstanding loans or bills or debts. It's going to mean being able to set aside money for your kids. It's going to be, you know what I mean? Like it is the beginning of generational wealth, right? At a certain level. And even if, like, again, even if I don't really think, I mean, unless you have like a really low standard of living, for most of us, that's not going to be quit your job money. As Jim Scott says, remember too, this is her second one. But here's the crazy thing. Think about how big the United States, think about how big the state of Ohio is. Think about how big the Midwest is. Think about how big the United States is. Think about how big the world is. And realize that her life could change forever because 13,000 people decided to throw a couple $100 or $80 her way. Right? So it's like, it's 7 billion people, right? So, it's one of those things that's just like, it's really hard to sort of understand, right? 0.000000185%, of the world's population needs to throw you a couple $100. It's not like they're just giving you the money. They're getting something. They're excited about it. Look at me. I bought the most premium thing. I was like, GM screen, cloth map, the zines I don't have, these cool dungeon cards, this rip-off sheet of character sheets. Fuck yeah, I'm in. Here's $230. I'm happy to give it to you. I'm excited to give it to you. I want you to make your money off of this. So it's not like I'm not getting anything. It's not like I'm literally just giving her a donation for $230. I feel very happy about what I'm getting. But all it takes is 10,000 people. She has 13,000, but all it takes is 10,000 people. Dr. Waits, why you gotta do me dirty like that? Listen, I was blind, okay, but now I see. Okay. So all I'm saying is, by the way, now, I gotta call Spencer or something. Okay, like I gotta use my in, because if I'm gonna run this game in live in person, I need that fucking awesome GM screen because it looks so cool. Anyways, point is, all you need is one cool idea that doesn't even have to, you don't have to sell it to 10 million people. You have to sell it to 10,000 people. If 10,000 people buy your, I mean, it seems crazy, but like, okay, let me rewind a little bit. I didn't mean to go off on this rant, but not that it's like a given, but as an example, you're like, well, 10,000 people is a lot of people, and you're right, it is. But consider this. I made a small little video today about the Daggerheart news about, Chris Perkins and Jeremy Crawford coming to work for Darington Press. And I made that today at noon. So call it, 12, 13 hours ago. It's been seen 9,000 times. So not that I'm saying that those 9,000 people would go and, back my Kickstarter, but I'm just saying, like, because of the internet and because of things like YouTube and because of things like this community, the ability for people to reach people is crazy. And it just doesn't take that many people to fundamentally change the lives of, every person that you know. And so I want to, again, this is actually not like at all hating, but like somebody had said something and they were like, how does that work? We were talking about actual plays. Actually, this is before my crazy idea. This was a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about actual plays with the patrons. And I was talking about how like none of them make money. And, that like only Critical Role and Dimension 20 and something like that. And someone said, what about Legends of Advantris? And I said, who the fuck is Legends of Advantris? So I look and I see this 2.1 million subs.
Gideon, who was the last person?
Okay, and I was like, what? Who the hell are these people? I've never heard about it. 7 best friends who play a lot of D&D together at the table. And I looked at some of their games, and I was like, what's going on with this? And, I looked at them, and I was like, oh, these look nice, but they're not, there's nothing super special here. And someone's like, yeah, like, see, you just got to work at it. These people were working at it for years and years and years. And I was really curious about this. So I dug into this channel, okay? And one of the things that popped out to me was that they had a root campaign. And I was like, oh, shit, they had a root campaign? And I looked, and I was like, wow, this art's really good. And then I looked, and I said, oh, their art was done by Kyle Farron, the artist who did the art for Root. So they actually got the artist from Root to do their character art for their Root campaign. But here's the crazy part. Their Root campaign did not use Root. It was all in 5th edition. But that's not my point. My point was I was curious about this because I was looking at these views and I was like, wow, these people, and I looked at their Patreon. I mean, these people are making money. Okay? Like, it goes without saying, they're doing very well for themselves. Okay? Like, very well for themselves. Like, extremely well for themselves. And with 2.1 million subs. But I still couldn't figure it out. So I'm going back through all of their things and I'm looking at some of their social network stats. And I look and I go, for years, they were getting nothing. Did you say how? How are they making money? Is that what you're asking? Jim Scott? The way that they are making money. Oh, well, okay. By the way, they're getting views. They also have 17,164 members. Let's see how many of them are paid. They have 4,300 paying members to their Patreon. So if we assume that, let's assume that none of them, they've got $200 a month, $80 a month, $40 a month, $28, $4, and $1.60. So let's just assume, if it's on average, say $10 a month, then they are making 43, whatever I said it was. They're making $42,000 a month just from their Patreon. And they're getting hundreds of thousands of views. So they are probably making 100 and to 120,000. And plus, I'm sure they get sick product placement and stuff. So they're probably making 100, 120, 125, $150,000 a year or a month. So, now here is what did it. I couldn't figure it out. I was looking through all of their past, and again, for years. And I was looking actually at old videos. Okay. And I was looking at their old videos and I was looking at the views because I have this thing called Social Blade that basically spiders and scrapes data from YouTube's. I just got it when I was a data scientist because I was more interested. And, I wanted to see how like some of these views, because like some of these videos, older videos had a lot of views, but I saw that they didn't get the views. No, they didn't blow up because of shorts. Here's how they blew up. They went to Gamehole Con, which is a small con in the Northwest. And they just went there because they're local to that area. And, again, this is getting back further. And again, sometimes there's some ones that blew up a little bit, but these are the shorts. And while they were at Gamehole Con, because I went and I found it on their Twitter. I was actually looking at their Twitter. I did this as like a forensic investigation. While they were at Gamehole Con, they ran into Matthew Lillard, the C-list celebrity who used to be in movies in the 90s, who is a gamer, apparently, and I guess still has some clout. And I guess they shot the shit with him, and they said, "Oh, we have a channel and things like that." And he said, "Oh yeah, like I've seen your stuff. It's pretty great." And they're like, "Ah." And the guy, the person who leads it, was like, "Yeah." So like he was tweeting about this. He's like, "Yeah, we joked about him," and like I guess they basically said, "Oh, you should come on sometime." And he did, and he did a one shot of them. All right. Yes, he owns Beetle and Grimm. That's also true. Right? So don't get me wrong, he's involved, but he did a one shot with them. Okay? Now, this particular video got 1 million views. And let me tell you something, prior to any of this, all these videos had like 4K views, 3K views. Matthew Lillard came onto their thing in, I can't remember, it was like April of like 2023 or something like that, or whenever it was. And I'm not even kidding you.
All right, everybody. Yes.
Yeah, so this was a year ago, but it was, November 13th, 2023. I'm not even kidding you that this literally, they times 100'd over the next couple months. Just astronomical. And it all happened because they happened to run into Matthew Lillard at a random, no, just completely small ass gaming convention. And they got lucky. Now, luck, chance favors the prepared mind. They obviously had a channel. They've been working at it for years. But I'm telling you, if they hadn't met Matthew Lillard in the end of 2023, right, when that one shot came up, they would never have popped off. And as an example to that, here is how many viewers they gained. This is the total views gained each month. Okay? So they were gaining about 1 million views a month. And then in April or March 2024, they went from a couple million views a month to 100 million, 127 million. Now, I don't know if you know this, but roughly, for most people on YouTube, you get about $5 for every 1,000 views that you get, which means that for 1 million views, you get about $5,000. So this means that they are making $500,000 a month off of revenue sense. And actually, last month or April, they made $750,000. So almost $1 million just in AdSense. And before that moment, they were making a couple grand a month. So now, agreed, the pay scale is different for shorts. Yes, and Dragons. Completely agree with you. But again, even if you include the crazy different pay scale, even if you include the Patreon, their whole life changed when that happens, and that's awesome for them. I'm really excited for them. But let me be clear, I can't replicate that. I can't just make that happen, Matthew Lillard was in Scream, right? He was one of the two killers, spoiler alert. He was in the Hackers, the greatest hacking movie of all time. He played the serial killer, spelled with a C, serial killer. SLC Punk, yes. He was Shaggy in Scooby-Doo and Scooby-Doo 2. What was the name of Scooby-Doo 2? Something, Voice Island? Death Island? Or was that the first one? Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed. There we go. Yeah. So he's a C-list celebrity, but he likes gaming, and obviously he had C-list celebrity. He still had millions of dollars, so he he founded Beatles and Grimm, So I'm not saying he's a nobody. I mean, him being a C-list Hollywood celebrity is still a big deal. Mystery Island is the first one. Thank you, Pumpkin. By the way, I don't need to tell you this. The people in that movie are gorgeous. Shout out to my girl, Linda Cardinelli, a.k.a. Velma, a.k.a. Linda Cardinelli. So hot. Freaks and Geeks. Be Still My Heart. Absolutely love her. I mean, of course I love Sarah Michelle, but I'll take Velma. I'll take Linda any day of the week. Any day, any week. Little Freddie Prinze action. Can't believe he married Sarah Michelle Gellar after that movie. That's wild. Isn't that wild? And they're still together. Good for them. So anyways, long story short is it doesn't take that much to like completely change your life because of the power of social media, because of the power of this, content creator. You don't have to find that big of an audience. Like 20 years ago, the idea of just being able to find an audience of 20,000 people was like, yeah, okay. What am I? Like a rock musician? But now that can happen to anybody. That happened to Dungeon Coach. That happened to Kelsey. That happened to, and while this Nimble 5e person didn't do a $2 million Kickstarter, I mean, to come out and say, hey, here's my 5e variant and to make $250,000. I mean, that's still, okay, that's not life-changing money, but you had a good year. You had a really good year. So it's really cool what you can do if you have a great idea and you have a passionate community who's interested in and invested in you. Is Matt, okay, hold on a sec. Let's see what ChatGPT says. What grade actor, A-list, B-list, C-list, would you place? I can't believe we're doing this. Would you place Matthew Lillard at? All right, let's see what ChatGPT says. He's known for iconic roles in Shaggy and most recently William Afton in Five Nights at Freddy's. He's had a steady, decades-long career in film and television, which often characterizes a solid B-lister. All right, there you go, B-lister. Roman, you are right. Well done. All right, fine. B-list celebrity. And yeah, stripped down, streamlined 5e, making $250,000 is still huge. $250,000. I've never had a salary of $250,000, and if I got to do that while making a game that people are excited to play, that I could put my game into the hands of 5,000 people who are excited to play it, yeah, that'd be fucking awesome. Hell, I would do that for free as long as I didn't lose money. And you're telling me I can also make, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars? Great, awesome, cool, sign me up. I didn't know she was on Boy Meets World, but that was another banger show, by the way, Boy Meets World. Interesting. There you go. Not Another D&D podcast built their fan base pretty organically with the networking afforded to them by their other jobs, and their success led to Dimension 20's first season. Wait, isn't Dimension 20 the one with all the people from College Humor? Or am I confusing something? Because I would think that they kind of had a leg up because they were already famous from College Humor. But who do I? Anyways, that is okay. Correct. Yeah, I mean, I think. Case in point, even I've seen College Humor, but it goes with it. It's also interesting to note that, the people who are really successful in this space aren't really successful because of the game. They're successful because of not the game, they're successful because they're funny. They're successful because they're really good voice actors. You know what I mean? Like, the game is very almost tangential to your success. Like, I'm not saying that, why is his name escaping me? Who's the Dimension, who's the XP to level 3? What's his name? Brandon? No. Gil? No, what's his name? XP to level 3 guy. Anyways, I would argue that while XP to level 3 has done videos that are about the game, I would say that the reason XP to level 3 got whatever 1.1 million subscribers is because he made the funny videos. He made the skits, of him being himself, playing himself 5 different times, Ginny D became really successful because she cosplayed as Critical Role characters, Jacob. And I think he's funny. I mean, I get it. Not all of them. I think some of them are kind of cringe, but the one where it's just when you're the one where it's like when you sent your GM to watch Critical Role episodes, and he's trying to pretend to be Matt Mercer. That is actually hilariously funny. It smells of I just love it. Anyways, so Philip says games are boring to watch, which is funny that you say that, Philip, because there's this thing called the NFL, and there's this thing called MLB, and there's this thing called the NBA, and there's this thing called the NHL. But it's interesting. And, and while it may not necessarily have taken off quite the way that people wanted it to, right? Esports was a thing, professional Magic the Gathering players, professional Dota players, professional League players. So maybe it's the competition aspect, I suppose. Maybe it's the betting contact. Full contact TTRPGs. Are you about to suggest that baseball isn't boring? Hey, look, the pitch clock really sped the game up, okay? I love watching board games be played. Hell yeah. Well, we're weird people, Pumpkin. And why not? Primal Fire. It seems like nobody actually cares about the game. I mean, I used to watch StarCraft 2 before the RTS genre died and no one gave a shit about it anymore unless you lived in Korea. But I mean, I used to be a huge StarCraft 2 fan. I still watch playthroughs by Winter TV, Loco. I love watching, I love watching Cyril. I love watching Hero Marine. I don't even know if he still plays anymore. Scarlet, she's great. I have my favorites. God, I love StarCraft. Hey, yeah, imagine if you had a board game channel, but people didn't actually play the board game. They just set it up, played it wrong, and and just made jokes, No, I agree, which, to be fair, I mean, like I said, my goal here is to entertain and to educate, in theory. So, all right. Well, now it is I don't even remember how this whole tangent started, but I'm glad we did it. It was fun. I'm just saying, I think it's really cool that these creators are able to find what is essentially a drop in it's a drop in the ocean. I mean, to find 10,000, and now granted, don't get me wrong, that's still a huge accomplishment. But to find 10,000 people is such a small number of people when you're talking about an international scale. That, and like I said, that could be life-changing money, for Kelsey, for Alan, this is life-changing money. And I think that's so cool, Philip, I don't know. Edward, yeah, it was your fault. I blame you, my friend. But can a TTRPG be fun to watch? Great question, Philip. I don't know. Ironically, Philip, I would be more likely to watch a TTRPG than I would be to watch whatever sort of weird improv story that they're doing while pretending to play a TTRPG, if that makes any sense. But heavy cardboard. I don't think I know heavy cardboard. Correct, GM Scott. That's another good point, because while doing $1 million for Shadow Dark or whatever, that was her first Kickstarter, is huge for Kelsey Dion. Most people would be like, well, we're never going to support that. And, there's too much of a risk. And even if it did do $1 million, who cares? Because by the time we do this, and, 18 people have their hands in the pot, we're not going to make any money. And it just doesn't get made, So, yeah, I agree. I mean, the model, I think, is really, really cool. And I really, love it. Right. What we do is we improv TTRPG rules. Horace, what's up? I just can't stand watching people not being able to figure out double-digit additions in less than 5 seconds. It's painful for me even when I'm playing at a normal table and I'm not being filmed and watching people who can't do math. And I'm like, come on, buddy. Come on, buddy. Well, Smendon, yeah. Well, Smendon, that is, in theory, what we would try to accomplish. We may fail, but we will try to accomplish this. Yes, like Smith improvising 3.x rules during a Dread game. Correct. That is correct. Well, so here, like, oh, God. Damn you people. So Bob can attest to this. Bob and I love the dice roll. When I watch, this is true. You know what? One of the reasons why I don't like watching Critical Role, I don't get to see their dice. I hate it. It doesn't feel real. I don't know. And like when we're playing at a table, like, and someone else goes to roll, like me, Bob, other people, like we get up. We're like, okay, Smith's rolling. Like, Smith rolls his die like out in front. We have like, we even have dice trays to like kind of centrally locate it, kind of keep the dice in check a little bit because I want to see the roll. I want to see the big numbers. I want to see whatever comes up. I love it. It's tangible. It's very feral. When we originally had our studio and we were playing live and in person, we tried. We just didn't have enough money to get good enough cameras. We wanted to have dice cams because I wanted the people at home who are watching the game to see those dice rolls. I might try again. If I could figure out a way to do it, because to me, that's the exciting part, because, when I watch Critical Role and they're all just like rolling in their little areas or whatever, it's not even that I think they're cheating. It's not even that I think they're lying. I just feel very disconnected from the game. And I don't want to be disconnected from the game. I want to be connected to the game. Does that make sense? Because I'm interested in the game. I'm interested in the game mechanics, Yeah, Horace. I mean, obviously there's a question of reach and being able to reach stuff. But Horace, that may be a very practical answer, Oh, yeah, Pumpkin. Absolutely. Scott, Ben has his dice cam because he doesn't use VTTs, even though he plays online. Like, it's just all like he has a camera top down mounted so that you can see what's going on. Okay, so that is what you were talking about, Yes and Dragons. This is incredible insight for someone who's in the middle of designing a camera layout for a live actual play studio. Well, Yes and Dragons, I mean, I don't know if you ever saw Yes and Dragons. Did you ever see our original gaming studio? So, I don't know if you're aware of it, but this was our original studio. Like we had a full production studio, multiple cameras, full sets, multiple track lighting, effects lighting, rim lighting. We had, full, all of it was being controlled from my Stream Deck. I could change the colors of the lighting on the walls. I could change the lighting behind these windows, these fake windows, is lights that I could control, change the colors of. We had key lights, fill lights, rim lights. We had a halo of like 6 cameras. Actually, right here on the right side of the screen is a massive, huge, like 90-inch television that we could see, so we could like watch chat while we were doing like live shows, like I'm doing right now. How I could see your chat, and it was all controlled from my GM screen position back there. So like I sat right here, and this is where I could control everything. And my player sat here. This was our collection of whiskeys. But yeah, I mean, obviously some of the gaps in it, like, like this is angled, like you can see it from this shot because it's just a picture, but like this is our top down camera. This was not a very good camera. This was just a shitty little webcam, which is why this shot down was very bad. But you can see the dice trays on the table. So yeah. But yeah, so we had a very fully equipped studio, needless to say. And we tried several different variations. Bardic Hospitality. Do I own the table still? Yes, it is in pieces in a storage unit, and I'm actually probably about to throw it away because it is very large. Here's another. This is another view of it while it was being constructed. we had a different setup at this time, but you know, the idea was still kind of fundamentally the same. But it is a very weird shaped. It is a trapezoid. So it's really strange, even though it looks like the people are facing each other. They're not. They're facing at a slight oblique angle, which makes it really weird to play at. I will fully admit it was something I didn't actually like. But it was good because each side had a camera that faced it. Yeah, but nobody wants this. It's great. It's also huge, by the way. It's a massive table. Because of the dimensions, in order to fit everybody and have the angles fit, it was a very big space. But yeah, it was Pumpkin. It's a very specific table that only solves one exact thing. Just finding someone to sell it would be like, would be a problem, But that was the first studio. Oh, that was the third studio. This was the second studio. This is where I played most of Rise of the Rune Lords. We didn't have as nice of stuff. We didn't have the fancy backgrounds, that's for sure. But this was an interesting design. This was our pentagonal design. And this one was interesting because each corner of the pentagon had a vertical camera hanging from the ceiling. You can see them hanging on these posts. And so each player had a camera facing them directly, which technically wasn't in anybody's shot, which was really, really cool. And it was really nice because everybody could reach the center of this table, which was basically a pentagon inside of a pentagon. And it was designed to have this sort of pit area, this arena area, so that we could set up minis and Dwarven Forge. And there was another camera that looked in on it and stuff like that. And again, we tried to use dice cam trays. Actually, the reason these dice trays are pentagons is because they were designed to fit into the corners of the pentagon table. So they actually had the angle of this pentagon matched the angle of this pentagon. By the way, I custom made all this stuff. Like, I made the dice trays, I made the table, yada, yada, yada. But obviously this was a much more, and of course this was Bob's addition to the table. Had to have built-in cup holders, of course, for beers. But this was not my ideal setup because I didn't like how unprofessional it was and stuff like that. Yeah, so that was that. And then here's another nice view of that table. So and then yeah, but anyways, and then our original, here are the boys. Look at that. That's us playing. That's Bob, Nick, Tim, Matt, all playing live while we're playing. That was pretty cool. How many cameras on the Pentagon setup? The Pentagon setup technically had 5 cameras. Actually, you can see them here. So each corner had one of these cameras. This was a Canon Vixia G50 or G60, which is an HD camera. It outputted on HDMI at 1080p at 60 frames per second, which worked for my purposes. It was not a great camera, full stop, but it was cheap enough and it worked. So every corner had one of these. So that's 5 cameras for each person. Then there was this camera over here. This was a EOS R5 with I don't even know what that probably is. It's probably like a 70 to, I don't know what that is, but it's some sort of lens. Thank you, Edward.
Edward tipped $10. Here's extra because chat kept you up way later than you planned.
Thank you, Edward. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. This is I'm trying to figure out what lens this is. It might be, this lens is probably a 24 to 70. Anyways, so this was like a nice professional camera, and that was pointed at with a much nicer lens and a much better sensor, and that was pointed at the actual gaming surface of the pit. So if we had minis or maps, that's what we'd view that. And then we never actually got it to work, but we did have cameras mounted here above on this camera right here. but also on this camera. And you can see it in this picture. It's kind of starting to get pretty bad. But there's another camera mounted above that camera, right here. You see it? That camera is looking down at the dice tray. So, and we had 2 of those. So technically there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cameras. That's how many cameras we had for this setup, which was a lot of cameras. But yeah, good times. Good times. Yeah, Bob had a top knot. He was in his Viking era. For sure. Memories. Memories. And then if we go all the way back, this was our first table. Well, this is table 1. Technically, there was table 0, which wasn't even a table. This was in my original studio. So this is actually a different studio. This was when this was my photography studio. I designed this and only discovered after I designed it that apparently this is kind of the design of Critical Role. Now, in this environment, this I didn't mount things to the ceiling yet. So everything's on a C stand. That's these big gray stands for those of you who aren't into photography. And that's one of the reasons why there's so much shit, because nothing was mounted to the ceiling. So you can see how much, space, is taken up by like stands, and it was kind of a mess. But, we had fun with it. There's us playing Pathfinder 2, Rise of the Rune Lords. There's Bob, there's Matt. Let's see what we're playing here. We're in initiative. I can't quite read to see what we're playing here. They got the letter. So this must be during the second. This must be during the Skinsaw murders, because I can see the letter. And I think the letter's from Adventure 2. Here we see. Hold on a sec. List of NPCs. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, there we go. Murder Most Foul. Okay, got it. Yep. They were probably into the misgivings at that point. Yeah, Merclore, I mean, it really does take a certain level of, professionalism to be able to do it. I mean, to ignore it, One of the things I've really tried to do is eliminate, the distractions. And, like one of the things I don't like is having people to be on mics. Now, these are our old mics. These are they weren't bad, but like these were cheap mics that I had. Right, exactly, Jim Scott. Like my buddy Matt over here frequently would forget to talk into the mic. Like he would lean forward to move his mini on the grid and be off mic and talking. So, it requires a certain level of discipline to be able to play. And I'd like to make those things disappear so that we could really just focus on the purity of the game experience. But it's not always the case that we have that option, and sometimes we have to just make do with what we make do on, unfortunately. And let me see if I can find the original table. There it is. And so this is technically table 0 because the original table wasn't like a custom built table at all. It was just 2 tables that I had originally built in my studio just for people to like work off of and maybe do podcasting on. And we just set up with a single camera shooting down the length of the table. And then we had one HD, the HD 920 Logitech webcam facing down on the Mattel mat. And this is how we originally started. This was the table 0, We could talk at length about shotgun mics, Yes and Dragons. I don't know if you've used them or if you've gotten good results with them, but it is we did shotgun mics and it was a fucking disaster. We also did lavs and it was a fucking disaster. So but it depends on your setup, it depends on how much money you're spending and blah 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 blah. So yeah. But yeah, yeah, for a lot of reasons. I mean, I'm not gonna, we could get into it off time, but, look, there's a picture of me taking a photo of somebody, when I was actually a photographer. I'm looking for the picture. We actually, here we go. So I was showing this earlier, but we actually originally had it set up with shotgun mics boomed out. So you can see here that the original audio setup for the studio was 5 shotgun mics boomed down from the ceiling, right off of gobo heads, on 40-inch extender arms. And then we had a bunch of shotgun mics, and these are just out of camera. So like if I were to bring this down another 2 inches, right, the foam windscreen would start to enter into the shot from the other camera, from this camera right here over on the left, right? This camera is shooting these 2 seats. Is shooting these 2 seats right here. So this is, mic 3 and mic 4 or whatever, mic 4 and mic 5. The problem with a shotgun mic is if we look at a shotgun mic's polar pattern, a shotgun mic has a polar pattern where, here we go. You don't get a lot of number one, you get a lot of off-axis rejection. So the problem with a shotgun mic is you have these side lobes, okay, but you also have this rear lobe, and you pick up a lot of stuff coming at it from the side. And unfortunately, this is the way that a shotgun polar pattern is set up. And so what that means is it's really bad at rejecting sort of side noise. And so unless you have a absolutely pristine interior environment, and I mean soundproofing like through the wazoo. And by the way, our walls were all covered in 5-inch thick. We built them from scratch, but they're made out of audio quality insulation. I can't remember the brand. Soft skin, not Skin So Soft. I don't remember what it calls. Anyways, but if you look at, so this is a different thing. So if you look at something like a cardioid polar pattern, okay, you can see that a cardioid polar pattern doesn't have those rear lobes. It doesn't have those the side lobes as much, or the rear lobe as much, and has a different example. And so it rejects differently. The problem with the cardioid polar pattern is it has this wide angle of frontage. So you can end up getting a lot of, like, if 2 people are sitting next to each other, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, long story short, I believe the best bet is to use a super cardioid mic, and I've considered debated playing around with them. That might be something I play around with. It's just really tough. So yeah. But anyways, as a super cardioid or even a hypercardioid might work. It depends on the situation. But yeah, that's a long. My audio engineering skills went, up a lot when I was trying to run a studio. So, and obviously I've set up several different situations. So, again, the issue with microphones is, well, there's a lot of issues. One of the reasons why we've had the most success with these, this is a dynamic mic. This is an Electro Voice RE20, but we've used Rode Pod mics, we've used Shure SM7Bs. The reason why dynamic mics work so well is that they're very insensitive, right? Like once you get off of the mic, the level of pickup, even I'm only a foot away from the mic, and you can see how much the volume drops down. So you don't get any real, you don't get a lot of distortions, you don't get a lot of pickup, and you don't get in a lot of reflections, and you don't get a lot of echoes. I'm trying to remember the term now, but the problem with the dynamic mic is you need to be, usually within one of these to make it sound good. And, if you get people too close, you can get a lot of plosives and, you can make a lot of weird noises. So it does require a lot of mic etiquette to be good because, like I said, once you go off the mic, if I lean in front of this thing, you can see that, it falls off really quickly and you may not be able to hear it much at all. So there's a lot of different things as I move back and forth across this, is that you're going to hear a lot of different sounds. So it's a problem, this is called a dynamic mic. The other type of mics are like ribbon mics, which are really, really expensive. You never use them. But the other type of mics are condenser mics. And condenser mics are very sensitive, and they pick up a lot of room tone, as Keith was saying. So there's a pro and there's a con, to all of that. Flutter echo is what I was talking about. Flutter echo. So, because when I talk, right, my sound is bouncing off of every surface, and then it comes back and hits the mic, a millisecond to 10 milliseconds, 20 milliseconds. But then you can even get an echo that bounces off of the other wall and then hits again. And so you get these weird distortions and waves, and you can just get a lot of distortion. And if you want to see here, whatever, fuck it, whatever here, now your space may be soundproofed well enough, that it works for you. And that's awesome. But and the problem we had with the lavs, was that the lavalier mics, to get really good ones, costs a lot of money. And I'm talking about professional lavs, and we had prosumer lavs, I'll call them, and there was a lot of noise and distortion, and you can see like how bad it is. So this is an example. This is our root episode 1, and we are all on lav mics here. Hey everybody, I guess I'm gonna have to fix that. Welcome everyone to this, which is root. We are doing a lot of stuff. We're doing a lot of stuff live today. We're doing it for the first time ever. We have new microphones that we're trying out. There may be some problems. I did not get all the time in the world that I needed in order to fix them. So you can hear, right, the echo, because, if I had one on me, it would work absolutely fantastic, So this is an example of that, just bear with us. But,
that's like 15.
It's like 15 feet away. So again, the other problem is that, as a prosumer mic, these lav mics worked over Bluetooth. So the receiver, which was plugged into our streaming computer, was connecting to these mics via Bluetooth. And, the Bluetooth would sort of, there would be, I don't know, electrical interference or problems, right? It's not like it's some dedicated, super hardcore Hollywood type situation. And so what ends up happening, the first episode of Root is considered to be legendary, because what we literally did is, it was so bad. And I was getting so frustrated. I was so mad because I hate being unprofessional. We literally took a break in the middle of the stream, and I think we played I don't know if we played cutesy music. No, I think I just straight up muted it. And I went into my supply room and I just started pulling out dynamic microphones, and I plugged in all the XLRs. And then we come back and I said, okay, fuck it. We are just, fuck it. We'll do it live. And, I went in and I got our dynamic mics. Now, originally, the reason I didn't want these dynamic mics, in the shot, is because, look how clean that looks. I love how clean that looks. You can see, by the way, remember I told you I could change the colors of things, right? We were starting off in a night scene. We had the green in the windows. We had the blue on the textured walls. And I think audio is the most important thing, even more important than the video. But I love how clean these look with the lavs, because, there's no wires, there's no mics in people's faces. You can see their faces, which I really, really like. So then we go and we pull out all these microphones and we get them set back up. And, now you've got these big ass, boom arms and, all this other shit in there. But
was that Patchwood? They're already in Patchwood.
Well, that's what I mean.
They're just going to keep going along to Underleaf.
We wish to secure Underleaf before the River Company can secure another post of advantage, and we need to find a way to strengthen our alliance. However, the Woodland Alliance still has many sympathizers in Underleaf. They do not have a base. They do not have a formal base of operations, but there are many sympathizers there. And killing anyone nearby, including a fair number of innocent civilians.
And so you can see how, just to me, that sounds a lot, obviously that sounds a lot better to me. And even then, we were just quickly pulling out old mics. So some of these aren't even really our good mics and stuff like that. And none of this was tuned, and I, didn't have the EQ and or anything like that set up or anything like that. So, and by the way, GM Scott, look at that. You were the session top tipper. Look at that. But yeah, so, it was very frustrating, to do that and to have our first episode, kind of be ruined by bad audio quality. So, it was unfortunate in that regard. But, we still had fun. And, we ended up doing a little fun AP with this and, having a good time with this. And yeah, so here was someone was talking about before about the top-down shot of the route map. There it is. So we could switch to the that was the map that we drew in session 0 of our route campaign, and I'm just using my route pieces to represent where everybody is. But it was a fun campaign. But I really tried to change up the audio quality in that one, and it was tough. It was tough. You love the map? Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So we had I think we had 2 session 0s where we drew the map, and we did it interactively with chat and stuff like that, and set up the map, and created our own woodland, and all right, let's just say this, R.I.P. Underleaf, let's just say that as the campaign went on. So it was pretty cool. Yeah, it was cool. We started off in Sundell, and we go from there. So, yeah, Route's a really cool game. Yeah, the map making part of Route is a lot of fun and a lot of great. And by the way, the other thing that you'll notice as this campaign goes on is that as people tipped, look, we're dancing. Oh, you're right. We did the first, and there was a super chat goal to add lizards and otters. And it's funny, Smenden, because lizards and otters ended up being by far the most important. I mean, Airy Dynasty too, but lizards and otters pretty much. They pretty much defined that entire campaign, which is great. But as you watch the campaign progress, you'll see more and more of the knights are in costume. So now you can see Smith, by the way, is playing Socks the raccoon, and Bob was playing I don't remember his name, like Calvin or something, the fox or something. And so as we kept going on, and so now Nick is wearing a badger costume because he was Vance. He was Vance the badger. Now we never got the tip goal to get Dirt there in a hedgehog outfit. He was a hedgehog. Oh, Lucius. That was it, GM Scott. Yeah, Lucius. Lucius Fox, like from Batman. Yeah, Lucius Fox. And yeah, he was Vance the Badger, and he was Socks that Raccoon Ranger. Smith was Socks the Raccoon Ranger, Vance the Badger, and Lucius the Fox. And then he was listen, Bob will work for tips, okay? But anyways, the joke was that we had to get all, so you can see here the tip goals, by the way. It says, keep the boys in the suits, and then it was complete the set hedgehog suit. So if we had completed that goal, we would have gotten a hedgehog suit for Dirt. I don't even know how we would have done that. But the joke was that we needed to get all 4 players in suits, and then Derek would wear a suit. But I never did. Although in the final episode, I did wear a lizard mask. This was a fun one. I'm wearing a Root shirt while we're playing Root. That was pretty fun. But this is what I'm talking about, where we were playing in person, so I really couldn't show elements on the screen. And this is kind of one of the things I want to use now for the Stream Deck. By the way, I know Pumpkin was talking about me emoting. You could see me over there, right? Big hand gestures and showcasing and driving and all this other stuff. I do talk with my hands a lot when I'm playing. So this was the finale. And at some point, I think I put on the lizard mask. I don't know when it was. Maybe it was the last time, but I do put on the lizard mask at some point. But anyways, we had fun with it, and we did, they're Nick's wearing the lizard mask. And that was that. And then we did our campaign debrief, and that was at that point we were talking from home and stuff like that. Now we're back to something much more something you're more used to and stuff like that. But yeah, it was fun. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. And I miss playing with those guys. And the reason I built the studio was so that we could have, fun time playing together and get to share it with you all and hopefully teach you about games at the same time. All right. That's going to do it for me. I'll be on tomorrow probably. I have no idea what we're going to talk about. We'll figure something out. And, I'm going to bring, speaking of the labs that don't work well, I'm going to bring those to Origins, and, we'll do a little live streaming from Origins and hang out. And I look forward to seeing my patrons. I look forward to hanging out with folks. if you see me, I'll be wearing some kind of Knights of Last Call gear. I'm sure. Stop by, say hi. It's not a big deal. Trust me. Like I said, I don't have any events signed up for. I'm there just to hang out, talk to people, vibe, and have a great time. So I look forward to seeing you all next time, either at Origins or on Knights of Last Call. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Peace.